Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, good folks. Welcome back to the Knights of the Storm. Today is 13th December 2025, and unfortunately, our guest has not showed, but we didn't want to keep you all waiting. So maybe some tech issues going on there or something. But we were going to have Dr. Shiva on. We could try to reschedule that. I had a lot of good questions for him. But anyway, I got with me today the lovely Lady of Liberty, Miss Karen Carpenter.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. It's great to see everybody. Yeah, we're going to have to wing it today, but that's fine. I thought maybe we could put a link in the chat later and go wherever people wanted to go. Maybe some favorite holiday memories, traditions, movies, music, gifts, things like that. But we'll see what happens. It's great to see you this morning, Jason and Ashley.
Yeah, I like your mood candle back there in the background. That's kind
I've had it a few times. It's a newer candle today. It's a little bit brighter, but I'm trying to shake it up a little bit and not to get too crazy.
All right, and we have the lady that keeps us sane in an insane world, Miss Ashley Think Change Repeat. What's going on, Ash?
Hello. It's going well. It's going I was trying to get prepared for the show, and I have a strategy today. So I fed everybody early, all the critters. So we're going to see if I get the usual amount of harassment. And I do hope that Tommy makes an appearance for our cat appreciators, especially Levi. He's a big Tommy fan. But other than that, I'm just glad to be here with you and looking forward to the conversation and the chat, all that good stuff.
You're muted, Jason. You're muted.
Thank you. If I bump this cable, it mutes me. It's
so
annoying. I need a new microphone. I was talking to Tom Cooper actually about it. His microphone sounds really good. And I cannot find the same one he has. It's made by JLab, which I have some headphones by them, but I couldn't find a microphone. So maybe I'll get a new microphone for Christmas. I've kind of dropped that hint in my wife's ear. So but no, just for next time we have to reschedule, or if he pops in, maybe he'll pop in if the tech issues work out or whatever. But if you don't know who Dr. Shiva is, he's been on with David Knight before. He's been on all over the place, but he was a 2024 presidential candidate, not a natural born American, which was the thing I wanted to talk to him about like what happens if he wins, right? So we'll talk about that when he comes on. But he's currently running for Senate in Massachusetts, and he'll be intends to run and actually has a website up again for president in 2028. But he has some interesting theories about this thing he calls the swarm and the control mechanisms. A lot of the stuff is the same stuff we talk about. And that's if he comes in or reschedules or whatever, we'll talk about all that stuff. And then, of course, what his policies are going to be if and when he wins these things. But we'll leave it at that. And just a little bit of teaser for when we do get him on. And with that, I can hand it over to let's go to Karen first. Karen, you said you might want to go over some of your Twitter feeds, or
well, I don't have it. I'm just pulling it up right now.
Okay,
let me see what I can do here.
Well, I'll go over something.
Go ahead.
Yeah, let me pull up my email. Give me a second to do that. Or I can kind of free talk it. I'll free talk it.
Go for it.
I was messing around with AI. Once in a while, I'll do a little check to see how much negative or positive notoriety the show gets. Right. I might stop doing that because I think I might be making more notoriety by doing that. But that's with Grok, right? And Grok tends to leave its I don't use it a lot, but it will leave the links to the websites. So I think of it as a Wikipedia, where you go to Wikipedia, find out something real quick, but verify the sources. But anyway, as I was going through this was really, really creepy. And I wrote Franco about this. I said, Grok started a conversation with me on its own, which was creepy. So I'm just saying, hey, what do you know about Knights of the Storm? Trying to get a vibe of if we are being considered radical or whatever, and that helps me determine if they're shadow banning us or whatever. And like I said, I've done it a couple times, not a whole lot. But then it asked me about the Foxhole show because it knew who I was. And it said, what's going on with your Foxhole? So I'm like, what? And it starts talking to me about the foxhole. I'm like, well, this is kind of crazy. And it suggested that maybe I do shorter segments, maybe not do a full length show, because I said I'm too busy to do it. So here I feel stupid now because I'm talking to a computer like it's real. And that's really the danger, I think, that when you talk about these large language models, when it comes to AI, starting to interact with it like it's a human. It's a real problem there. And I kind of got roped into that. But the conversation I had going forward, it said, well, what would you talk about if you talked about something? And I talk about this this oil tanker. I think it was the oil tanker, or the Venezuelan boats getting blown up. And I literally used it to reference mainstream media stuff where I had said, is it possible that the ice raids, the renaming of the Gulf of America, whatever, Gulf of Mexico, that these were all optics in order to get us into a war with Venezuela for the oil, because China has signed off on a lease and we're trying to get ExxonMobil in there to get our own oil. And the reason being because BRICS Nation is challenging and I actually texted Tony about this too, Tony Arterburn, because the BRICS Nation is challenging our status on the world stage as the petrodollar. And it literally said that that is a valid theory and had all the stuff cited. And then we go and get this, we just hijack this oil tanker. That oil, I looked it up and I didn't confirm this yet, but supposedly we took that because that was someone said it was headed to Cuba, but I think the end place for this was supposed to be oh, that's you, Karen. I thought Shiva popped in. This year.
No, that's me, and I got my screen ready to share.
Roger, gotcha. But the end place for that oil was supposed to be China and Russia, and it was like well over 1 million barrels, which that's a lot of freaking oil. I don't know how much fuel that makes, whether it be diesel or gasoline, or they just burn oil. I'm not sure how that works, but all the pieces lined up, and I was trying to build the argument that, the Venezuela stuff, the ice raids, that's the optics of we have to go to war with these people. The boats being blown, they're killing our kids with this fentanyl, and the renaming. See, people don't understand in the United States. They don't understand their geography anymore. The Caribbean is not the Gulf of America. It's a different body of water. It's a different sea or whatever. But the average American won't know that. They just think anything down south on South America is right on that Gulf, and it's Gulf of America now. So that's our territory. So it's justified to blow these people up. It's international waters. In fact, we're doing it in their waters, which is a war crime. Actually, it's all war crimes. And the taking of that oil tanker kind of like solidified my theory on what's going on here. And this is because, and as somebody else brought up, it might have been in David's chat, I think it was, that China and I forget, maybe it was India, might have been India, but there's two nations that are now trading for oil in metals, like straight up gold. And I did a look on usdebtclock.org. You go there, you can look at the demand for gold. This is another one that's really big. China is like 38 million troy ounces or whatever. I don't know if it's tons or ounces, but they were like 38 million. The second one was India with an equally high number, and everyone else is like 1 or 2, including us. So they're stacking up on gold. That's the demand. So that was the demand, looking at the demand versus supply. Right now, we don't mine enough to meet the demand, which is why we see prices of metals going up. The demand outweighs the supply. And this could be very, very serious. This could expedite our collapse of the dollar if they get all this gold and then they start trading in it. And people are like, I'm not dealing with the US dollar anymore, because that's the only thing that's keeping us afloat. If that status goes away, we're done. And this could happen very, very soon. Anyway, that's just me killing some time talking about some stuff I was checking out.
I have a comment.
Yeah.
Yo ho, the pirate's life for me. Pirates of the Caribbean. I don't know how many people have had the honor or the misfortune to ride Pirates of the Caribbean, but we always loved that ride as kids. It really does have great ambiance, and there are a lot of stories about, you know, what goes down underground and in Disneyland. But that's what that makes me think of, that we are pirates now.
Mhm.
And it's just not acceptable.
Taxes, tariffs.
Yeah,
It's all piracy. It's all theft.
that's true. That's true. And I've been listening to a lot of Gene Chip Tatum, who is he actually was dropped into Vietnam on a team and dropped inside of the Viet Cong territory. And it's a great story, but he wasn't supposed to survive, and he did survive. And he's been a whistleblower for many years. And he talks about Iran-Contra and Air America and so many topics. It's just fantastic to go back and listen to the old radio shows and the interviews he did with Ted Gunderson. And he's got a series called The Tatum Chronicles and a book he released. And he had a lot of documents with the whole Air America operation and the Mena, Arkansas, the cocaine running. And he saw George Bush there many times, but he says that and Ollie North. But he says that Jeb Bush was also very much involved. And we remember Jeb Bush was, I believe, the governor of Florida. And he also ran for president not too long ago. And he was involved in the cocaine growing and running, but also in the banking in Venezuela. So he was a banker in Venezuela back when Iran-Contra was the thing in the 80s and 90s. So we've been involved there. And then we also know that Operation Paperclip South America was very much involved with that a lot of people from Germany, including Hitler himself, went to South America. So it's not, there's lore about the Clintons having property in South America. So, and then the John of God baby farms in South and Central America. So, you know, we've had a lot of involvement with regime overthrow for several decades. So it's not that we haven't had our hands in that area and had undue influence and threw our weight around. But it seems to be more in the open now. It's more out in the open. It's just blatant. And there was always some kind of a decorum or rules that were followed on the world stage, at least to keep appearances. But the appearances are even that thin veneer of having things look copacetic seems to be gone at this point. You're muted again.
Okay. What are your thoughts, Ashley? This doggone thing.
I don't know. I mean, I think that y'all provided some pretty good information. I think that it's probably like almost everything else that is being done. It is function stacking. It is multifaceted. There's a lot of purposes for what is happening. Sure, it could be for financial gain. It could be for in a way to have access to the oil. It could be to provoke or stoke the tensions with the BRICS alliance, which I personally don't believe in. I don't think any of that stuff is real. I think that the allies or NATO or whatever you're going to say versus BRICS is a manufactured 1984 trope. We've always been at war with whoever, East Asia or whatever. So you always have to have the foreign other, which is used in almost every single situation. There's always the foreign other. There's always the whatever the thing is that represents what you need to be fearful of. So obviously during the Cold War, it was the USSR. It was the threat of communism. And that was the guise in which they went to war in Vietnam, was the domino theory of communism. Obviously, during COVID times, we had the fear of the virus. And fear is a very powerful technique in order to control the masses and to herd the behavior of people. So that's part of it. I think that so it's always good to have that, to be stoking the idea of the foreign other, the threat of their alliance with BRICS. And I think certainly there's the imperialism angle, as what Karen was saying, the constant meddling in worldwide affairs that the United States always finds itself up to. And I know that there have been some indications that the United States military or the Pentagon has sent soldiers down to begin training in Panama, which is a very Vietnam-like setting. And this was the first time in decades. So I found that to be very concerning. I mean, anything that's going to be reminiscent of Vietnam, I think we all need to be very aware of and concerned about. So it's possible that there is, again, the military push, that we're simply alternating, that we've played out the narrative in the Middle East. We obviously have what is happening in Israel and Gaza right now, but this has been happening for years. People, I think, this is only my assumption, they have Middle East fatigue. And as we have talked about many times, there's only so much outrage that us as a human, like, no matter how righteous or aware or like fighting the man that we want to have, there literally is only so much bandwidth for outrage on a particular issue for so long before you are simply worn down by attrition of that message, of it constantly being in your face. So I think that there's potentially some Middle East fatigue, and you're not getting the support for military action that you could be if you make a pivot to Latin America. I think that could be something. And I think that classifying people as narco terrorists is a continuation of the war on drugs, and the war on drugs is the war on us. And so I think that anytime we start classifying people that did not have due process and are not even in the United States as terrorists, and we use that as a banner and as a way to say, well, we should just be able to blow them up with impunity, which, as you both have said, that is a war crime. But these people never they're never held accountable for these things. But I think that simply the idea of executive action, I say that they're narco terrorists and I'm blowing them up. And again, when we talk about these things that are inserted into the paradigm, I think that you can get used to that. Even like us, maybe not us, but maybe the regular people are like, oh yeah, they're just blowing up people on a boat. No big deal. And so I think there's a desensitization aspect of it as well.
Absolutely. And I wanted to mention the technate, the North American technate. And Trump, there was so much effort and expenditure put into Ukraine and possibly gaining some territory in that area, which isn't going to work out. And so I think that Trump couldn't really expand in one way, perhaps, or the powers that be couldn't expand in one way they particularly wanted to. So maybe they're feeling they need to expand in that area or secure that area, the influence in that area. If other forces, China or other forces, I think there's 2 or 3 main branches of this octopus of global control that are having are brawling at this point. And who's gonna rule the technocracy? Who's going to be the main mob boss of the technocracy? And this is just my theory or my feeling. So perhaps Trump is trying to secure his position and for the people he is paid off by, so that the South America can be under that influence of Trump, but also the North American technate. And there was the North American Union that was the sort of treaty or act that was a few years ago, that with Canada, United States, and Mexico all working together. And so perhaps that's a move to include South America and to have an American technate. So it's just something to think about.
I wanted to go ahead, Ashley.
Really quick, Jason, I just want to say, I think that's an interesting point, Karen, because that's something that I think about a lot, is the level of control, the level of, how many people are making these decisions, or the level of like things that are still up to chance, or the level of people that are maybe battling out for certain positions in
Mm-hmm.
what we're seeing today. So I do think that that's an interesting point. And just, I don't have an answer, but I wonder as well, like, what are really the players here and who is still vying or jockeying for position. And the other thing is, I wanted to bring up really quick NAFTA. This is something that Monica Perez has talked about a lot in the past, is that she kind of felt like it was the idea, especially with NAFTA, in order to really create, sort of a blend of the United States, Mexico, Latin America, and Canada
Mm-hmm.
as an entity. And I think that would make sense, especially if we start moving to think, we're starting to centralize. We had the European Union, and if we're moving towards globalism, which of course we know that that's the goal, but I think that could be a factor. And certainly it would be one step closer to globalism if we're starting to kind of merge from Canada all the way down.
There's an Amero coin, wasn't there? An Amero proposed at some point, similar to the euro, but then we see the European Union at the point of breaking apart. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting. That's for sure.
Their tax stuff got too complicated between all the different nations. I've seen a couple videos that would just blow your mind on how complicated, and everyone needs their so there's still different nations, but in a union, and then they all want their slice of the pie. So let's just say that I'm America here, and I want to tax carbon. Now I'm going to charge the people down in Mexico carbon taxes, so they're paying us for this, and then Mexico has something they tax over there, so we got to pay them, and it just goes all over the place. But
so that's why you need one benevolent dictator, they would say. We need one benevolent dictator to take care of all that.
Yeah, that'll be the AI.
What Trump's trying to do at this point with the AI executive orders, and I have that pulled up on my Twitter. That when we knew he tried to put it through with a big, beautiful bill, didn't he? That there would be the states would have no recourse on AI for 10 years as far as their own restrictions or rules. Well, he's trying to do that now by executive order.
Yeah. Let me just, before we move on, I did want to get this thought out. Ashley brought up a good point about that Vietnam style woodland jungle fighting. And I had an observation. I remembered some stuff. So when I was in the Army the first time, that's how we trained in basic training. We still were doing jungle warfare type training. We had the BDUs, the green, black, and brown to blend in well in that environment. And we learned those tactics, how to place claymore mines along trails and stuff and hide them. And I got out, of course, post 9/11. It was 2005, I want to say, when I got out. Yeah, I think 2005. And they had completely changed the doctrine into, like, all of our equipment went to tan. Our uniforms changed. The basic training and the supplemental training after all changed and it made sense to me. So when I came back in, it was kind of a shock for me. I didn't have to go back through basic training literally by like 5 days. If I had joined 5 days later, I would have had to go back through basic training, but I didn't have to. And then I go through my AIT. I learned my my engineer stuff, and then we start training. I go to my first unit, and I'm like, I don't know. I got screamed at for putting my rifle on my shoulder with the barrel pointed upward. That's how we carried them the first time I was in. Now I had to be muzzle down. So everything changed. But the point of what I'm trying to get at is that before we left Iraq, before we left Afghanistan, before we had that crazy peel out from there, we had already gone back, started working on this jungle doctrine that I grew up with, in my first time in the Army. So did they have pre-knowledge that we were going to be entering one of these areas that is a more wooded and not a desert environment? And also another amazing thing, and I've talked to David and I about this, our mount sites, I don't know what mount stands for, but it's like an urban training where you go through buildings and kick indoors and stuff like that. They used to have a mock mosque, and at one point they went they went to steeples and stuff like that. And it just seems to me like, why did they do that? Why did they spend the extra money? I mean, it's just considered a religious building, right? But why did they go to this other? And then also another one, this is on Fort Leonard Wood. That's been there for quite a while. They have a strip mall that looks like a strip mall you would go, or they get the laundromat and, whatever in the strip mall. And that's where the MPs train, in that little area. So I don't know. I just see that it just seems like they had some pre-knowledge that, hey, we're going to be getting out of Afghanistan at some point and we need to go somewhere else. I mean, I don't know why they changed to this woodland stuff again, unless, initially I thought, well, maybe it's because they knew we were going to go to war and assist Ukraine, right? Maybe that was the reason. But I don't know. It could have been knowing we're going to go into Venezuela or South America ish somewhere. Just an observation. So,
I saw Ashley's comment in the chat about people being sent to Vietnam with no training. Chip Tatum said that he was dropped into Viet Cong territory within a few days of joining the military, and or with just very little training. Let's put it that way. I don't remember the details too well, but I've been looking a little bit, and I know Deb in the chat is familiar with this, the Noahide laws, and how Christianity will eventually be targeted. And I think that the move with the steeples away from the mosque to the steeples in the reenactment or the training zones may possibly be indicative of the Noahide laws, which may come into effect. And a good channel for that is Israeli News Live with Steve and Yana Ben-Nun.
All right, Karen, do you want to jump over to your stuff on your screen?
Sure, we can do that. We can give it a whirl.
All right, I'll throw it up.
Okay, so this is breaking 911. President Trump signs executive order blocking state regulations for AI. Should I play it? It's only a couple of minutes.
Yeah, go for it.
Hopefully the sound will work.
Mr. President, as you said, keeping with your commitment to grow the American economy,
We can hear it. Can you make it a little louder?
jobs, maintain America's technological and military superiority in the years ahead. This is an executive order that orders aspects of your administration to take decisive action.
It's full volume.
AI can operate within
All right, we're good. We can hear it.
in this country, as opposed to being subject to state level regulation that could potentially cripple the industry. David Sachs, your AI and crypto czar, has been one of the key players and key authors behind the CEO. He can give you more of the granular detail, but the big picture is that we're taking steps to ensure that AI operates under a single national standard so that we can reap the benefits that will come from it in terms of economic growth, job development, national security, and technological edge.
And it's really the biggest industry that anybody's seen. I mean, it's taking off. And again, I believe there'll only be one country that really benefits, and it should be the United States. And it will be if we do this, if we unify. We have to be unified. China is unified because they have one vote. That's President Xi. He's just doing it, and that's the end of that. We have a different system, but we have a system that's good, but we only have a system that's good if it's smart. David Sachs, can you say a few words, please?
Yes, sir. So, as you pointed out, we have over 1,000 bills going through state legislatures right now to regulate AI. Over 100 of them have already passed. 25% of them are in California, New York, and Illinois. We've got 50 states running in 50 different directions. It just doesn't make sense. We're creating a confusing patchwork of regulation. And what we need is a single federal standard. And that's what the CEO says, sir. It basically states that the policy of administration is to create that federal framework. We're going to work with Congress, like the chairman here of the Commerce Committee, Senator Cruz, and other members of Congress to define that framework. In the meantime, the CEO gives your administration tools to push back on the most onerous and excessive state regulations. We're not going to push back on all of them. For example, kid safety, we're going to protect. We're not pushing back on that, but we're going to push back on the most onerous examples of state regulations, sir.
I'm sorry if that was a bit hard to hear. We have an issue when we're sharing audio lately. To me, first of all, the overall overreaching power grab there is concerning, but that there are several hundred already laws in the works or regulations in the individual states, and so this gives them the ability to push back on those selectively. The laws that they aren't happy with, that states are enacting to regulate AI within their own borders, the federal government will have the power to push back or to vacate those laws. And in California, we have a lot of protections in some ways, but then we have a lot of government overreach. And California seems to be leading the way, putting in some laws about regulating AI within the state. And I haven't looked at the individual laws, but some of them may be, well, for example, we have raw milk in the grocery store here. So not all of the laws in California are negative. So it's just will be interesting to see how this plays out. But it is, to me, it's very concerning that, because with technocracy, in order for it to be successful and to be a good panopticon of digital control, to read us successfully and to track, trace, and follow us in every possible way at all times. And with 6G, it will go down into our skin, through our body, and more into reading our thoughts and things like that. And 6G, another thing I have in my Twitter feed is Trump talking about the wonders of 6G and how he wants that as soon as possible. And that's more into the Internet of Bodies and the Internet of Things, and moving, so that would really facilitate all of this with the AI and the digital ID and the stable coin, programmable money, and just all of those tentacles of control. So it's just also very concerning. And then one thing we're talking about a little bit more, and Courtney Turner talks about this too, is that even if we do have, for example, local little technates, little tiny nodes, she would call them, small cities, maybe a 15-minute smart city with its own cryptocurrency and its own name, its own rules and regulations type thing. Maybe it's kind of like, I look at it more as like a little community that has common values or common interests. Even if we have those on a more local level, she says it's still that they're calling it decentralization, but it's a way, it's just as dangerous as the overarching net. It still has to be part of the big web. And with Trump trying to push through this national AI network with no stopgaps and no controls along the way in the towns and townships or rural areas or anywhere in the country. And this may end up including North America at some point, or the whole North America and a whole technate, for example. That way, all the nodes, all of the small communities that are, if they're digital, if it's a digital small community that runs on a digital currency and is hooked into the Internet of Things, that will still be part of the panopticon. Even if you think you're in your own little independent area, if there's no gaps to AI and no walls per se, or no boundaries, then your own little rural, quote unquote, decentralized area is still functioning as part of the net of control.
So two things come to mind here, Karen. Great points. Number one, the flock systems, right? They sold these flock systems as to the individual municipalities as their system. So on the surface, it appeared that you had your own little decentralized little network, but in fact, nationwide and maybe even worldwide, they are linked. And that's what you're talking about. Even if you have these little, okay, we're just going to do it here, this is local, my little area, and we're going to handle our own little currencies, like you said, they're going to be linked. I guarantee you they're going to be linked.
It's a node on a network.
Yep. And that's a good word for a node, because that's
I'm taking that from Courtney Turner.
Yeah. It's we called in the communications world, we called those places like radio towers and stuff where you have your muxes and demuxes. Those are called nodes. But
and I think of lymph nodes in your body, which is just a point on a system.
Yeah, that's probably why they call them nodes.
Yeah.
But anyway, one other thing came to mind is when we start talking about federalizing this and taking the power away from the states, now we're talking about eminent domain. And I was just looked this up while you were going over that. It says here, the use of eminent domain in relation to artificial intelligence involves acquisition. We know what eminent domain is. And I got to reading into it, said, will they be able to do this? And sure enough, there's already examples in Pennsylvania, utility company, PPL, I guess that's the name of it. is pursuing eminent domain to acquire 4.35 acres of farmland to erect high voltage transmission towers. Now, I understand you only need a little bit for one tower, so it's probably like a long string of little plots, right? It's going to disrupt that farm. And then there's another one here. It says it's not isolated in Niagara Falls. That's in New York, of course. They invoked eminent domain to seize 10 acres of land owned by a private developer. NFR, I guess, is the developer, to facilitate the construction of $150 million arena. I don't know why it says arena. A move that threatens the developer's 1.5 billion AI data center project. Okay, so I guess in this case they're going the other way around. They want to build an arena, and the developer was going to build the AI data center. But still, we're going to start seeing this eminent domain because that data center is going to go somewhere. So they're just going to take someone else's property. You know, that's another thing to look at. And again, going back to the oil thing and the war with Venezuela and the speed at which they're putting these centers up, I believe it comes down to the dollar. They need this processing for the CBDC. And I think the number one biggest thing in the immediate threat that they want to look at is the dying dollar. And that's why they're trying to like stomp the gas on this thing. Eventually it'll control everything. It'll be surveillance, carbon scoring, so you can be taxed and all this other stuff. But I think the dollar is the immediate threat for them. All right. That was my thoughts on the eminent domain aspect of it.
Ashley, do you have something you'd like to throw in or some comments? I'm sure you do.
Yeah, I think this was on my radar as well, that Trump was trying to essentially remove the states' rights, exactly what you've already established here. And of course, it's concerning in any capacity when we see an overreaching federal government attempt to be making moves, especially something that is so important. We have a lot of good comments in the chat that people are saying that, let's see, I wanted to find Levi's comment about the executive order prevents the states from shutting down the data centers, which are stripping the natural resources, causing huge problems, which we've talked about here. So I thought that was a really good point. And then some people are saying, Deb said that it was like a company town situation because Ronnie had said it was like a ghost town economy. So I agree with that. I think it's like that plus Black Mirror element. And so I do think that it's really concerning. And I think that some of the other things that maybe are not as much on the radar, but there has been some moves, and I don't remember what organizations in Hollywood, and I know like we're no fans of Hollywood, but I'm saying that these people are considered, you know, artists in their trade or whatever you want to say, and they had made moves to try to prevent being replaced with AI. So I think that this could potentially be a factor in kind of regressing some of the work that they had tried to do to try to protect actual humans who are acting and producing content to not be replaced with AI. I don't know that it will be, but if the government is able to override states' decisions, it may still not apply to these people that are in these organizations connected to, you know, like unionized and things like that. I don't know, but I think it's a little bit concerning, and not, again, that I'm a fan of Hollyweird. However, there are regular people in that industry that are still making a living by being, you know, building sets, doing sound engineering, things like this, that deserve not to have their jobs replaced with AI, just like the working man in the rest of the world and the rest of the United States deserve not to have that happen to them.
That's true. A company town is a good analogy. I was trying to think of an analogy, but I think they're going to try to sell it to us more along the lines of being with like-minded people. Because you see, we in our circles, we see a lot of people on various podcasts talk about trying to form societies or go more rural, group together, as you know, as the Waltons was on our TV when I was getting ready for the show. And that's a great example of more decentralized, more self-sufficient, extended family groups, community that works together. And so a lot of us realize that may be where we need to move, and we may be trying to move to find more like-minded people. But if these areas end up being put by mandate or choices or some kind of manipulation onto this grid of AI and 5G, 6G, digital currency, ID, etc., it's really, it's just kind of smoke and mirrors to say that you're living in an independent state or area with like-minded people. You may be more comfortable that way, at least being around like-minded people, but you're still a part of that technocratic net.
I see, I don't like the idea of the AI command and control structure. And I think Doge is part of a push to that, and all this corrupt politicians and the Epstein files, all this stuff points to corrupt, overbloated, ineffective government. So I think that all that was kind of, imaging, or, making it look like, hey, wouldn't it be smarter if we have AI doing a lot of these roles, right? I think that's how they're going to try to sell it, to try to slowly move into a technocracy. But I don't necessarily agree with AI taking all of the jobs, taking the government jobs. I can see that being a goal, but there are some cases where AI on a smaller form as a tool could actually create jobs. And we talked about this before. How long will that last? I don't know. Will eventually be so good that it will actually take the jobs away. For instance, you have AI code something for you and it's absolutely horrible. So then you have to hire 2 programmers to go through the code and decode it, right? And figure out, debug it or whatever you want to call it. But I'm not sure it's going to take hands-on physical jobs from people until they get the robots.
I have a post here about that, and I believe, and I should have looked, if I didn't know we were going to talk about this, I would have looked it up. I believe Walmart has just pledged not to hire any more human employees for a few years. And so, and I think it may be Walmart and Amazon. Maybe somebody can look that up. But at least Walmart has pledged not to hire more human workers for quite some time until they see what shakes out with the AI. And I think it may be Amazon too. So Target and other companies, a lot of workers are being laid off. And this is the season where people usually have seasonal jobs, and some people depend on and look forward to those seasonal jobs. But so you've got some major retailers, and sure, Walmart is not the greatest job, but it's a job, and besides that, it's the human factor. Seeing somebody having an actual real checker, someone who can actually help you solve a problem or deal with an issue, or just to deal with a human being. Even if jobs are lost, or maybe you create jobs cleaning up the messes, you've still got people losing their jobs, and that losing the human contact in many cases. You may have someone on the back end working remotely trying to untangle the mess the AI made, but I think it'd be much better to just keep the customer service where you actually talk to a person on the phone rather than having an AI you're talking to, and then you can't get your resolution. So then eventually, after 3 days or two weeks on trying to get through the AI, you might get to a person who has to clean up that mess, who's severely overworked.
Well, I don't understand. I've been trying to wrap my head around this, and I brought it up before. The direction that we're going, if we're going to talk about robots doing the work driven by AI, nobody's work. It sounds great. Yeah, robots will do all the work, and I could sit at home and relax and be creative and do all this stuff. No, you're going to get a universal basic income potentially. It will be just enough to barely live off of. So as these machines and AI and factories are automated and all these products are being built, who's going to buy them if nobody's got any money?
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? So then your GDP goes down, and there's no way it can end well. There's no way it can, because you have to have customers to purchase the products you're making. And if no one's working, who is that?
Can you pull my screen up for a second?
Yes, absolutely.
This is just a case in point. McDonald's has officially unveiled a world first automated restaurant chain in Texas, which does not involve any human staff working at all. Food preparation, serving, and payment are all done by artificial intelligence robot. Just one more thing to make people less social, while corporations will be pulling in a larger scale profit. I know who wants to eat at McDonald's anyway. This test done in McDonald's in Fort Worth, Texas, automates customer service with app kiosk ordering, conveyor delivery, eliminating human contact, but humans still handle the food preparation. It's one side. It says it's not a chain. So let's take a little peek.
This is huge news. The first fully automated McDonald's is now open in Fort Worth, Texas. Now, this is what's going to happen with AI technology. It's going to first take over low-level jobs that require repetitive tasks, simple decision-making. This includes jobs like this McDonald's here. As AI systems become more sophisticated, they will take over more complex jobs, financial analysis, legal, even medical diagnosis will eventually be taken over by AI. This is huge news.
Okay, so I just wanted to share that. I have no desire to go into someplace like that, even if it's a high-end fancy restaurant, and order that way. And I know people, I talked with a friend of ours the other day who said that the fast food in their area is this way now, and he will not participate. He will not.
I won't go. There was one McDonald's I went to where I went in, and this lady was standing there, and they had these two big tablets. And I'm standing there in front of the register getting ready to order my breakfast sandwich, right, on the way to work. I'm standing there. She just looks at me a couple times. She says, you can order right there. I'm like, are you putting me to work? Do I work here? You're going to make me do my own order? I don't even know how to use this thing. Now I got to figure out the menu and whatnot. Anyway, so I finally did it. And there was another lady on the other one that was a customer. She was ordering something as well. And you know what McDonald's breakfast looks like, right? It's a little bag with a sandwich, a hash brown, and a coffee. They all look the same. Well, my food gets thrown on the counter there, and I asked the lady, I said, is it my order? She said, yeah. I wound up getting the other lady's order, and she got my order. So I see AI making a lot of mistakes. I mean, if you ever have to call in for phone support and have to go through the menu, and then it'll send you right back in the same loop over and over again, or it'll hang up on you. It's so frustrating. But I don't think that that's what I'm saying. I don't know that AI, this is a test or whatever. I don't know that it's going to be that effective.
Well, we've got algorithms running medicine. And for example, my mother is 87. She has some vein issues thanks to taking one COVID shot, which she was peer pressured into in her small town. She did eventually take one COVID shot and developed vein issues. So she's been seeing a specialist for that. And she really likes this young man. So she wanted to ask him to recommend somebody for another medical issue. He says, I can't talk about anything at all, but your specific problem that you came to me for. So you've got doctors at this point that are working with algorithms. If you have, for example, the cancer care, if you have a child who has cancer, the medical system basically takes over, and there's an algorithm, a standard of care that you must apply to that child, whether you want to give that child chemotherapy or radiation surgery or not. You are required to, or CPS can take your child. So we are already in a situation where the medical system is being run by algorithms, by standard of care, and there are still humans involved, but it's moving to the point where there will be less humans involved, and the humans that are there, maybe standing there to act figures of authority, are absolutely, they're Dr. Google, they're Dr. AI, they're reading, and there's talk about pharmacists that are AI, that the algorithm prescribes the medicine. And of course we know that also, and I haven't completely avoided AI. I have asked it, just the Google AI assistant a few times, questions about medicine, about vaccines, ingredients. Are they safe? What is this advisable to take this for that? Or is this herb safe to take or to give my dog or whatever? And it's very biased, very, very biased to the standard of care in medicine. So to me, it's a myth that AI is a wealth of information and it's not biased, or that you can find out honest information there. I don't think that's the case at all. To me, it's just like Google, only more intrusive and faster.
Yeah. It even says verify the information, because all it's doing is it's compiling the most popular articles, doing keyword searches, most popular articles, and it compiles them. Well, those most popular articles were propelled by somebody with an agenda. So yeah. And I was going to say one more thing. I forgot. I lost it. Ashley, you got anything?
Yeah, so I do think that it's interesting to see where, at this point we are speculating, like we do know an overall big picture of where they would like to go, which is a full surveillance state, the digital prison. We know that. I don't necessarily subscribe to them being successful in that, but certainly they are on the march for that. And I do think, or at least some of the things that I've been thinking about when I'm mulling over why certain institutions that are really prominent in our day-to-day lives, such as the medical institution, and that's a big one. But then some of the other stuff, like somebody had asked me the other day, why did we see when the Afghan bomber, the guy that was in the Zero programs or whatever it was called in Afghanistan, as very likely a child soldier based on how old he was, that ended up shooting the National Guards, right? Why was it in the news? Why was it allowed to be out there that the CIA was who had trained this guy, that he was part of secret program that sounded like secret programs from Vietnam, when normally these things are kept under wraps? And I think that part of that, and this is something that Monica Perez also said a long time ago, that they want people to lose faith in the institutions, that is part of the game. And so once you are losing faith in the institutions, then you are more likely to accept what you may think is going to be a more accurate, more efficient, and less, convoluted, less corrupt, less whatever.
Biased.
Yes, less biased, all of these things. And that could be priming the pump for people accepting AI. I don't necessarily know, but I think that that's something that I mull over when I think about what is going on. Like, why are we being shown this? Why is this being allowed to be out there? Why do they make it just so absolutely awful for people who are trying to go through the medical system to try to get something done, to try to find a root cause? They don't care about a root cause, to try to find some sort of alternative or complementary therapy like that. They're not interested in that either. So I don't know. I mean, maybe these things are part of demoralization, but I think that the inefficiency and the difficulty in dealing with them is perhaps likely to make people more accepting of the AI or the technocracy. And I agree with what you're talking about with even if something is pitched to you as decentralized, like what Courtney was saying, that you're still part of the grid. So it's not decentralized. If you are part of the technocracy, if you're part of the digital surveillance slave state, then it doesn't matter if you are with like-minded people or not, because you're still, Big Brother is still tuned into you.
Oh, I forgot what I was going to say again. I had a thought, and then you got me thinking in other direction.
I think that's part of the magic that Trump seems to work on some people, as that he promised that he would, that the faith in institutions was gone. A lot of people were starting to see that we couldn't trust the institutions. So he comes along as, to me, the Pied Piper of doom, and supposedly an outsider, and that he's going to fix things, and he's just a regular person, regular guy, and he's not a Washington insider. He's going to fix things because we know we can't trust the system. It's fake news, and he's going to drain the swamp. And so I think that it is key that we lose faith in institutions, and then people, the elections, all this confusion about elections that may be purposeful. So many things do play into our losing faith in the system. And it's also, I think it's just a big, one big, in part, a big humiliation ritual as one of their purposes, to demoralize us and also, pit us against each other. In so many ways, there's always got to be an enemy, a boogeyman, and the boogeyman seems to be getting closer and closer to home.
I remember what I was going to say now. Kind of ties into this AI and mass surveillance and control network. Let's just say that for whatever reason, we're going to go down this road of everything linked together, one big Skynet to rule them all. And let's just say that they're not out to get you. It's for man's benefit, right? If that were even the case, if we didn't have corrupt people that will abuse it or use it as a method of control, isn't it still placing all your eggs in one basket? What happens when the internet goes out, right? Or a data center goes down? I know they'll have levels of redundancy. That's why they're putting so many in. They'll have copies upon copies upon copies, but that communications network is how they're going to communicate. And I've seen this many times when the internet goes out. They hit a fiber optic cable in Hinesville, where I was living in Georgia, right? They hit a fiber optic cable, and you literally could not, on that whole street, could not go to a restaurant and get something to eat because of that one fiber optic cable. And they closed it. The food was made. It was hot. There were people in the parking lot. There were people in the drive-thru, but they couldn't, even if you can count the money and make change, they required that internet connection for their automatic inventory thing. Like every time you would sell someone a cheeseburger, it would note that he needs to order another patty. And that's what we're talking about. Those used to be jobs that people had. So that's one way we've kind of already eliminated a lot of jobs. And it's basically, like I said, putting our eggs in one basket where one little problem could really screw you over. So, I mean, I don't mind the automation a little bit because sometimes that makes things more less expensive, but we have to have backup systems is what I'm trying to get at. I mean, there's some places you can go where if their internet's down, you can't buy anything. And there's some places that they'll just write it down on a piece of paper and they'll take the cash and make change, so those places have backups. But yeah, that's one thing I wanted to talk about. And also I was looking at Eric Peters. I like Eric Peters. He's pretty cool. He's got an article about protecting the children and talking about all of this not real ID, but internet ID to protect the children. And what they really want when it comes to that, going back to this one system to rule them all, they don't want you having anonymous accounts.
Right.
Because they want to tie everything to you for your digital twin. And I've mentioned this before. And we were talking in the chat, I think it was, or we left the voicemail or whatever. My wife wants a new TV. She was bad and bounced a rubber ball in the house several months ago and broke our TV, teaching JJ bad habits. But so we got this little bitty TV that used to be my daughter's TV. And it's kind of weird. It's a smart TV, by the way. She was the only one in the house that had a smart TV. We have to use it. And the thing will not turn off. I have to unplug it. I caught it one night. I turned all the lights off in the house. And I was like, why is that screen glowing just a little bit? And I went over there and it was still on. So we were looking for a new TV. You cannot find a non-smart TV anywhere. Mm-hmm. I looked every single model. They're all smart. They all have voice recognition. They're going to have your Wi-Fi. They're going to have your location data. And so that's, ties into this same thing. If I get this internet ID thing and I upset the government, what's that going to mean for all of my smart devices? And they're going to, and my credit card, for all this stuff. I don't know. That's getting kind of
well. Have you seen the people, the young people sleeping on the streets in China suddenly? there's a glut of young people on the street sleeping in China. From a report I saw anyway, of course I can't verify that, but that they've been dropped or fallen through the cracks of the social credit system, and they're locked in. They can't get in or out of their apartment. And I've heard for years that some people get locked out of their neighborhoods or because of their credit score. They have to show their ID and the gate won't open, or they can't use the bus system. There are reports of lots of people just sleeping on the street now because they're locked out because of, and it can be by mistake. There's also been reports of people getting put on the red list by mistake because the AI made a mistake.
Well, it's kind of like the no-fly list. People.
Yeah,
get on the
it's very,
no-fly list
yeah.
all the time.
And we know people who are debanked. We've interviewed people who are basically debanked. So
next week we'll be talking with Scott Helmer, and that happened to him. He got deplatformed, debanked. Did he get debanked or just deplatformed?
I'm not sure.
It was Michelle Spencer, I think, that got debanked.
No, it was Zoe.
Zoe.
Yeah, that's right, Zoe. But
I was trying to avoid saying her name. I don't want to call more attention to her.
But yeah, what's going to happen with this too? If we're starting to use this facial recognition, which I believe that's what self-checkout is. It's not. It's like you said. It's function stacking, Ashley. So not only are they eliminating a job, but they're also tying your facial recognition to your payment methods
and variable pricing.
Yes. Yeah.
Variable pricing. There's a new study or a new video. They did a study with I think 400 or 500 shoppers and sent them all shopping, and they came back with different totals based on their variable shopping. Variable pricing. I have a 6G article pulled up we could go through from Courtney Turner if we wanted to. We could not, whatever people want to do.
Good for everything. We're just winging it today. Lost our guest, but we're doing good. Everyone says we're doing a good job. I don't know if Ashley wanted to take a turn, if she had something to share.
You got have something you wanted to talk about or pulled up?
No, I don't have anything pulled up. I was just going with the flow. For today's convo.
We can take a look at yours, Karen. Here we go.
Okay. Courtney's doing great work lately, and she had a really great appearance with Patrick Wood on Gardner Goldsmith's show 3 or 4 days ago. So if you missed that, you should check that out. It's a great conversation. And Gard was on America Unplugged this morning. So shout out to America Unplugged. So this is the applications of 6G technology, and Courtney's all about the technocracy and the panopticon of control. 6G is the anticipated next generation of wireless networks expected to roll out around 2030. And Trump just talked about getting 6G out there as fast as possible just recently and made some strange comments about how it can get down under your skin. So it was kind of creepy what he said. So rolled out around 2030, building on 5G with even faster speeds, ultra low frequency, massive device connectivity, and integrated AI and sensing capabilities. It will enable a wide range of transformative applications across industries by supporting immersive experiences, intelligent automation, and seamless integration of physical and digital worlds. The Matrix, anybody? Here's a breakdown of the key cases based on current research and projections. Enhanced connectivity and communication. 6G will supercharge mobile broadband, fixed wireless access, and global IoT networks, allowing for real-time holographic communications, ultra HD streaming, and massive scale device interactions. This could revolutionize remote work, education, and entertainment, such as virtual reality meetings that feel truly lifelike. Smart cities and infrastructures that will power advanced traffic management, real-time environmental monitoring, air quality and energy usage, public safety systems like predictive crime prevention and automated emergency responses. Autonomous vehicles and drones could operate with near zero latency, reducing accidents and optimizing urban flow. Healthcare and telemedicine. 6G enables remote surgeries via haptic feedback, continuous health monitoring through wearable sensors, and AI-driven diagnostics. It could support smart healthcare ecosystems, including real-time vital sign tracking for elderly care and global pandemics. Global pandemics. Environmental and disaster management. Global sensor networks for weather forecasting, wildlife tracking, early detection of natural disasters like earthquakes or floods. Precision agriculture could use 6G through soil monitoring, crop optimization, and automated farming equipment. Shall I keep going? I'll keep going.
It sounds bad. Well, I wanted to mention something. I was
There's a lot more. It gets down to how it uses our body for energy down toward the bottom. But this makes me think about the septic tank monitoring, that how they'll be they're monitoring, they already are, the WHO is monitoring our septic systems for possible pathogens. So this would enable that. And I've heard someone joking saying, I'm getting my own private septic tank, so that my septic tank isn't hooked up to the Internet of Things, to the global monitoring system for pandemics. Go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, I was trying to find this. I looked it up before, but I can't find a comprehensive image. But the 6G, when I looked it up, when we first started the show, I was already talking about 6G and the spectrum that they've set aside for it. It pushes all the way up almost into visible light.
And it talks about using LEDs and
Yes.
that type of thing.
Yeah, it's like into the IR spectrum. And I want people to think about this. Animals see different spectrums of light than we do. So what's going to happen to our ecosystem when we have all these 6G signals going all over the place? It's going to look like in the middle of the night to these animals, a lot of these animals are going to think that there's lights flashing all over the place because they're going to be able to see those higher ends of the spectrum. Maybe not all of them, but it's getting close to that, right? That can have some really bad, effects to our ecosystem.
Yes.
If animals can't sleep, or if they,
yes,
some animals will go freaking commit suicide. Look at whales that beach themselves and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And not to mention, we've talked for ages about the EMF and the health effects. They look at this. Oh, this is safe. This is the low end of the exposure, and you're okay. Even though they put warning stickers on the towers. The thing is, when they introduce 6G, you think they're going to turn the 5G off? No, they're not. So you're getting double exposed. You think Starlink's going to shut off? No, you're getting that as well. And then they're talking about beaming power down to Earth. It's yeah, I don't know. I just thought that it was interesting that we're approaching infrared, which we can't see. Your phone can see it. You can actually, that's how I check my remotes to see if the batteries died or if they quit working. You can see the light flickering. But I think some animals can see that stuff.
Oh, I'm sure they can, and or even hear it.
Yeah. I've often wondered if my tinnitus, because my tinnitus got a lot worse after COVID, and COVID's when they turned on the 5G.
Yeah.
So I sometimes wonder if my tinnitus, part of what I'm hearing, might be actually hearing the frequencies.
It could very well be. Okay, industrial and military applications, and you talked about possible ways to fight back with our own robotics in the future. And I've seen videos of people explaining where, if you're going to use a gun, where to shoot robots, if they're the robotic dogs or things, if you find yourself under attack, how to give yourself at least a little bit of a chance to run away. industrial and military applications, robotics and manufacturing with precise control, smart grids for energy distribution, and military uses like ground target detection or search and rescue operations. Sensing features such as gesture recognition and object detection will integrate with AR for training and operations. And I saw a video of an AI camera system at a school that supposedly reads if someone has a gun. And there were some teenage guys on the playground or on the school grounds eating a bag of Doritos, and the police thought they had a gun. The Doritos were read as a gun. And so the police had to apologize because they questioned them. I'm not sure if they drew their guns on them, but they definitely saw them as possible intruders with guns. And they were some kids eating Doritos. So it's kind of it's a scary proposition. 6G aims to create a fully integrated and automated society, merging AI, edge computing, and quantum technologies for applications we can't yet fully imagine. Using the human body as a 6G antenna. The concept of using the human body as an antenna in 6G stems from research into visible light communication, a potential technology for 6G that uses light from LEDs, for example, when Li-Fi is definitely a thing, for data transmission instead of traditional radio frequencies. In 2023 study from the University of Massachusetts Amherst, research found that the human body can act as an efficient collector of leaked electromagnetic or light-based signals, essentially turning people into mobile antennas to harvest waste energy. Energy harvesting mechanisms, VLC systems, transmit data via light, but the same energy leaks during transmission. The human body, with its conductive properties due to water and electrolytes, can capture this stray radio frequency or light energy more efficiently than traditional small antennas or wearables. Tests showed the human body collects up to 10 times more energy than other materials like plastic or steel when positioned near a signal source. Implementation: a simple coil, e.g. a copper wire worn around the body like a bracelet, can convert this collected energy into power for low energy devices. This doesn't require the body to actively transmit signals, but rather passively amplify and harvest ambient ones. Safety considerations: the low energy levels are very low and safe, focusing on recycling waste rather than exposing users to new radiation. However, antenna designs must account for biological effects at 5G frequencies to ensure minimal impact on the body. And I'm sure that the impact of 5G frequencies or 6G frequencies is just horrendous. And one of the effects is an attack on our DNA and our RNA. It penetrates our body, and there are significant concerns about the effects that we'll have on our actual DNA.
So I want to make a quick correction. So our visible light, what we can see, is actually in the terahertz, not the gigahertz. However, the microwave does bump up against infrared. And like I said, I'm more concerned about what the animals can see. And I pulled this interesting little article up here. The top 8 animals that can see infrared. So these animals could quite possibly be affected when they push to the top of that, right when they're
go ahead, put your article up.
Okay. I got to take yours down, I think.
Okay.
So I just thought this was fun facts, right? We got the goldfish, right? The bullfrog. And like I said, these are kind of low on the in the food chain. So if these animals are affected, what's it going to do to our entire food chain, our ecosystem? That's the concern I have. The wolf, now he's on the top. He's going to be a wise wolf. Vampire bat. We've got mosquitoes. That's kind of interesting. And I guess they can see the infrared because of the purpose of what they're supposed to find or avoid or whatever. Let's see, we got the fox, able to deceive technology. I don't know what that means. And of course, you got the goldfish again. The pit viper, that'd be like rattlesnakes and stuff like that, and salmon. So just interesting to think, if you want to talk about, you know, they've been taking down dams because the salmon can't get back upstream, and we got to worry about the animals and all this other stuff, but yet they're going to push forward with this when it could possibly harm the animals and our entire food chain.
And Bronx Thumper says in the book Electronic Silent Spring, they have a chapter on the effects of EMF on wildlife. And we did, I've read The Invisible Rainbow, and we did a show going through the Invisible Rainbow and how as technology, as each step was taken from radio waves to the telegraph to electricity to, you know, wired Wi-Fi or wired internet, and then to 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G, how there have been illnesses associated with them. And one thing that I thought was really interesting learning that history was that when, for example, when radio towers were first erected or telegraph lines, there was a lot of people got anxiety. They got a lot of emotional symptoms, psychological symptoms, insomnia, mood swings, but anxiety was a big one. And it was known to be from the electricity. They called it neurasthenia. And then Freud came along, and Freud is a very sketchy individual. I believe he's related to Edward Bernays and propaganda. And so the whole Freud's story is very, it's a rabbit hole in and of itself. Freud came along and took what was known to be a physical condition, of a spectrum of conditions due to exposure to EMFs, and he recategorized those as psychiatric or mental conditions, the anxiety, insomnia, mood swings, irritability. So he moved those that were known to be from things like the telegraph wires or the electric lights and electricity in the city, or the radio tower emissions. He recategorized those anxiety and those type of disorders to being emotional or mental. And then, of course, you had the introduction of all of the psychotropic or the anti-SSRIs and the other, you know, the pills, started pushing the pills for these things, or just labeling people crazy, putting them in psychiatric institutions, discounting their symptoms. The telegraph operators were known to have a lot of issues, a lot of quote unquote mental and physical issues. And just looking back at Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman, thinking about the lore in television, the telegraph operator in Dr. Quinn, he ended up going crazy and committing suicide. And so that wasn't interesting to me, that just thinking about that as I read the Invisible Rainbow book. And so thanks for the comment, Bronk. That made me think about all of those, the ways that these tie in. Yes. I think that most of us, or so many of us, are tired. We talk about fatigue. I know that I struggle with fatigue, and I struggle with staying awake or staying asleep all night. You know, I wake up several times a night usually, and I do unplug my Wi-Fi. But at this point, there's so many signals everywhere. My neighbors have Wi-Fi. You know, I need to shield my bedroom better. You know, and that's not an easy thing to do. It can be done, but I think that so many of us have so many symptoms, and we're struggling physically with energy and sleeping well and things like that, that I think that we don't take into consideration the key role that the fact that we're swimming in all of these invisible EMFs, and the sea is just growing. And so I think that that's something that most of us don't really give full weight.
And I believe that it's going to get worse. As these AI and data centers come in, they will be linked wirelessly because it has to be out of our control. You know, if people start realizing what these things are about total control, they'll start, you know, I'm not recommending any violence, but somebody will go try to take out a power line tower. So they either have to put it all underground, and even underground, you can run a backhoe or something and sabotage that connection, whether it be the electrical electrical going to these data centers or whether it be the communications lines going to these data centers, people will be up in arms. So it's going to have to be linked together through like the Starlink network or something, the invisible. And to talk about the real effects of just electricity in general, electricity and frequencies, anyone who's built a car stereo knows if you're putting a massive stereo in, you have to run the power cable down one side of the car, and you have to run the RCA cables or your signal cables down the other side, because if they get close to each other, you'll get a whole bunch of noise and buzzing and stuff in your speakers. And also, if you wanted to cut up any kind of communications twisted pair cable like a Cat5 or even your telephone cable, take a look at it, pull the things out, and you'll see that they are actually at different twist rates. And that's why we get the length limitations on like Cat5 and Cat6 and stuff like that. There's distance limitations because those twist rates are different. And over like 100 feet, if you were to untwist that, you'll see that those wires would be different lengths. And they do that because of what's called crosstalk. Crosstalk is when you induct a current onto another wire. And even with the insulation and the shielding, you still get some of that crosstalk. So if those are concerns and those things were engineered that way to keep inductance from happening, what do you think it's doing to us? I mean, those power lines out there, right outside my house here, we got power lines that run. What are they doing to me if I'm out there in the shed, because it's close to the shed? Of course, my shed's metal, which attenuates it quite a bit. But I think did we cover this, Karen? We've done studies or showed studies where they looked at people who live under power lines and they have lower IQ or something like that.
They have higher cancer rates. Absolutely.
Higher cancer rates. Okay. I couldn't remember.
Absolutely. There have been a lot of instances of, and there's one in my town that actually was taken to court. Several teachers and students at one school, they had the high power tension lines that ran over a school, pretty high, high in the air, but there was quite a few of them. And there was a cancer cluster at that school, and they won in court. And there have been other cases where people have won cases about having cancer from a cell tower being on top of their college or their apartment building or whatever. There's quite a few new regulations that are being put in now as far as when Wi-Fi was introduced and the cell phones were introduced, cell towers were introduced, there was regulations enacted by the FCC that you can't take health concerns into consideration when you're considering where to place cell towers. So if you have a concern that the cell tower is placed in your yard and it will affect your health, you cannot raise that as a concern. It's not a valid concern. You can talk about the cell tower lowering your property value, or that it may block your view or your neighbor's view, that type of thing, but you can't. Health effects cannot be considered when in the placement of cell towers. But there's new, and that's old regulations, but there are several new regulations that are going into effect. We need to look into that and get up to speed on that, because it's something we need to know about the regulations as far as where cell towers can be placed, because with 5G and 6G, they don't travel very far. So they have to have repeaters everywhere. And basically, we know that you can be a router at this point, and with 6G, you would be a router. So, and that other entities, for example, Amazon may come through and use your house router if you have a Wi-Fi router, if you give permission, and perhaps if you don't. So we need to be more aware of the regulations on that, because I know there are changes taking place, but I'm not sure exactly what they are.
White Wolf says that 5G is blocked by trees,
Yes.
trees. And I'll tell you this. So we have two 5G towers really close to each other here in town, and I think they're just two different carriers. But I can't get the 5G here because I have a hill, and it's woods on that hill. So because that was one of the things when we looked at better internet so I can actually podcast here, because the old internet, remember how bad that was before I got this other really bad internet, but it's at least enough that I can stream. But the 5G was the only other option. And I looked at it and I was like, because one of our neighbors was looking at it and he said, oh, it's supposed to be this fast and blah, blah, blah. Well, it turns out we can't get it here because of that. So they did put fiber in. They're getting people hooked up now. So hopefully I can get fiber, and that'll be kind of cool.
One more thing, and then we'll go to Ashley if she got some things to. I'm sure she does. And your wheels are always turning in there. As far as I know about shielding and protecting from EMF of 5G or other ones, of course we had the lead paint, which a lot of the older houses are still going to have coats of lead paint and I feel that absolutely lead paint was eliminated in order to make us more vulnerable to EMFs. We also had lead in blinds at one point, and everybody got rid of their old mini blinds because they had lead in them. And so that was another thing that was shielding your windows, was possibly the lead in the mini blinds or the lead in the paint. You can buy EMF protected paint, but it's very expensive. But some things that are less expensive, because I've looked into this quite a bit, is just a mesh aluminum screen, just a cheap screen, mesh aluminum screen. And you may very well have mesh aluminum screens on your windows at this point. Or if you're redoing your drywall or redoing your room, painting or putting wallpaper or whatever you're doing, some paneling or whatever you decide to do to your room, you can use the chicken wire that is in your drywall. That also can mitigate to some degree, or just put some fine aluminum screen in as a coating. And don't forget the floor and the ceiling. And then you want to think about the metal parts on your bed. And then also you've got dirty electricity going through the walls, but there are some adapters that you can use to dissipate that. And then there's also a thing called building biology, and some people who use a little like bracket type things or metal scroll work, they put up in the corners to make the space a more rounded space. If you think about the older buildings, there were a lot of nooks and crannies, alcoves, rounded roofs, crown molding, or coved ceilings. The more rounded space is a much healthier space for our own energy and frequency and the flow of our energy. So there's a lot of things that people have looked into. And then also, yes, a lot of trees were cut down when 5G was installed. There were a lot of people that put up some serious fights about that. So plants are a plus. They do turn brown, some of them, and they don't do well. But if you've got a kind of a tree or a bush that can handle it, make sure to let them grow. Go for the jungle look instead of the well manicured look. And so it's not all that expensive to block quite a bit of it. And a cheap way to do it is with just a fine aluminum screen or plants.
So real quick, I just want to address something before I shut up and give it over to Ashley. There's a little bit of debate here on 5G, like how far it can go and stuff like that. So it depends. And I looked it up to verify because, White Wolf's saying that it's not on the towers. I know for a fact it's on the towers, right? I know. But he's saying that there's repeaters out there, which I know that that's the case as well. So here's the official answer from, website? Anyway, I'll just read it. I don't know the source. The effective range of 5G cell tower is going to vary, right? So some ranges are 1 to 3 miles, and they can go as low as around 100 meters. And that has to do with whatever frequency. So if you look at 5G is on a spectrum, right? 6G will also be on a spectrum. So depending on how close to that tower you are is going to be what it's going to switch over to.
Also, the LED lamps, a lot of the new lamp posts, the new light posts that have the LED, they also may be 5G relays or boosters or whatever, transmitters. So they may be right in front of your house on the lamp post. And then, of course, you got the LED lamps, street lamps now. And, of course, we were talking about the information being able to be transmitted through the street lights. And then also there's the purple lights, the purple light phenomenon that we could talk about someday too.
But that's all I had. I'm trying to find the safe distance according to the FCC right now. So, because I guarantee you,
they didn't do proper testing. If you want good testing, it's in Russia. Russia did it.
And that's all I had. Ashley, if you got something.
No, not on this subject. It's not really my area of pursuit. I mean, I'm obviously familiar with, you know, the damages and the fact that it's not good for you, but it's not really something that I have done a lot of deep diving in, and it is everywhere. So certainly if you can do some things to prevent it, and like they were saying in the chat, basically try to make your house a Faraday cage. I haven't done that, so I'm not going to tell other people that they need to do this, that, and the other thing when I really haven't taken any personal actions to try to save myself from the EMF radiation that we're currently being cooked with. And I think at a point there's a certain resiliency in humans, and if this is how I have to go out by being cooked by EMFs and unintentionally and without my consent and being bathed in it, I mean, there's only so much we can do.
We can do a lot more than we think we can do also. And there's a few channels. One that I liked over the years is called Scotty's Tech Corner. And he gives you step-by-step instructions on how to hardwire your internet, including for your phone. So you can have a cable, an outlet to plug in every room for a smartphone. And Spirit of the Age mentioned the LED headlights, though they're just awful. And they do damage our eyes, absolutely. I bought a lifetime supply of incandescent bulbs when I realized that they were going to be made illegal to manufacture or import into the United States. I just happened to notice it was at a time when I was taking a deep dive into EMFs. And I noticed that, hey, incandescents are going to be, can't get them. Supposedly we're supposed to be able to again, but I really haven't seen that availability much. So I do have quite a few incandescent bulbs for myself, but I would love to be able to share them with everybody, because I think that it makes a huge difference in our health and our eyesight and our circadian rhythm, our production of melatonin and our regulation. So light's a big deal too. And the headlights are just awful. The new headlights, they're so dangerous.
I just got this little list here of health effects by distance. So within 300 meters of a cell phone tower, fatigues, and this could be 3G, it could be 4G. I'd have to go back and look. I didn't kind of read through this real quick. Like I said, we're trying to do this on the fly here, but these are known for, we'll just say for EMF. These are known side effects: fatigue, sleep disorders, migraines, a heightened degree of irritation, dizziness, having trouble remembering things, a lack of concentration, infections of the skin, and cardiovascular problems. I experienced several of these right after COVID. And the COVID is when they turned on the 5G. So is it, coincidence? I don't know. And even closer, between 50 and 150 meters, difficulty concentrating due to distractions, appetite loss, extreme discomfort, a heightened degree of irritation, sleep disorders again, headaches, dizziness, and nausea. Now, I experienced this, and my skin turned bright red when I was working on a satellite receiver dish in Okinawa. And the dish was pointed up, and that's like a focused signal, right? So it should have been safe, but the radome, little golf ball looking thing, like you see on the Doppler radar, the dish is inside there, and just that little bit of scatter from that was basically cooking me. And I could only be in there for a few minutes at a time and had to keep going out and waiting. And we talked with Dr. LaGuardia about that. And he agreed that's what I experienced. And then they told us about that in school. When we went to the communications school for radio, they told us about the effects of EMF. So anyway, that's all I got, Karen.
Another thing about the 4G frequency, which is the same as the microwave ovens, I found several scientific studies and papers that back this up, that that frequency is highly correlated with diabetes. So I think that this huge epidemic of diabetes that we see is every bit as much connected to the 4G frequency that bathes so many of us as it is to the awful food, to the metabolic dysfunction, the sugar and the carbs. I think that the 4G frequency that all of us encountered also played in hugely into that. And then now you see an epidemic of children with diabetes or glucose intolerance, or their blood sugars trending high as teenagers, and they're sitting in classes with Wi-Fi in homes with Wi-Fi. So I think that the EMFs tie into diabetes much more than people have realized.
All right. You got
Well, I just wanted to chime into that. I definitely think that that could be a factor, but there are a lot of other nutrient deficiencies that are
Oh,
associated with diabetes as well. And it's certain, and not that you don't agree with this, Karen, but that we're under attack from 1,000 different ways. So maybe a piece of it is an EMF, but there's also the piece of endocrine disruptors and forever chemicals and lighting, blue screen lighting in general, messes with our circadian rhythm, like, polyunsaturated fats in our foods, seed oils. There's so many things that are contributing to the metabolic dysfunction that we see in today's day and time. And
nutrient deficiency.
Yeah, that's what I was saying, for the, like, as far as our food and things like that, and the contributors to diabetes and liver malfunctioning. And I'm not somebody that subscribes to that it is actually related necessarily to sugar or carbs. I subscribe to the Ray Peat field of research. I know that's going to be a hot topic, but I don't subscribe to that. I know that your blood sugar can come back as high, but I think that, and of course, that the poisons from medications and from shots and things like that can cause pancreatic dysfunction. But I don't necessarily subscribe to the old sugar that a lot of people do, but I definitely think that all of these things are huge factors, including nutrient deficiencies, and these things can be reversed as well. So I'm not dooming here. I'm not going to.
No, I'm not drinking Red Bull, White Wolf.
I am drinking my Red Bull White Wolf.
Most people aren't familiar with the Bill Peat nutritional plan. I did look into it.
Ray Peat.
But yeah, I think we know it's an omnivore. It's in everything. There are food, water, air, EMFs, you name it.
I think a lot of this is, it provides plausible deniability. So we have the EMF problem, we have crap in our water problem, we have, like, you can't blame it on any one thing. So everything gets a pass. Oh yeah, it's safe and effective. It's safe and effective. It's whatever. But as a aggregate, aggregates into, you're exposed to all of this stuff. And we talked about this before, Karen. There's just so much that we're exposed to, and it keeps increasing. And our food has lost all its nutrients. We got that organic beef from my mom, and then some canned goods, homegrown stuff, deer meat and stuff. I can't eat a full plate because the stuff is so filling. But if I was to go get some store-bought meat, or vegetables that were grown hydroponically or in depleted soil, you end up eating more of it. And I think that's potentially why we have somewhat of a weight. You're eating a lot of fillers. What you're eating, you're not getting the actual nutrients and the vitamins. So
I just point of contention. Because I do subscribe to the repeat metabolic dysfunction and epidemic of hypothyroidism. I feel like there's a lot of blame put on the amount of food and the quantity that people eat. And certainly, if we're having a lot of processed foods, I think that that's part of it, and of our brain and our metabolism kind of being hacked to encourage overeating. But I don't actually think that it's calories. So a lot of blame is placed on people for eating too much. But I think that we need to have an understanding that there are reasons that would facilitate if someone was overeating, and that a lot of that can be affected by our light environment and quality of food for sure. But also there's often other factors at play, such as hypothyroidism, even low levels of hypothyroidism, that can encourage overeating. So I just wanted to put that out there. Again, I know that that's not what everybody subscribes to, but I just wanted to at least make the point in case somebody happens to be interested in the things that I'm talking about. I just wanted to put it out there.
Right on. Did
Sorry,
you
I
have
called him Bill Pete instead of Ray Pete. Yeah, I don't subscribe to the calorie method of weight loss or whatever either.
well, I've always been a calorie in, calorie out guy. And I mean, it's just what it is. But if you're not getting, if your body isn't getting what it needs, and I've seen this with my own, and maybe that's just for me, but when you eat that homegrown stuff that was raised in the garden, with manure as your what you call it, your fertilizer and stuff, and your ground's been replenished, I eat a lot less. And I mean, I would imagine if I believe in the calorie in, calorie out thing, the less I eat, the less I would store as fat. You know what I'm saying?
That's the traditional. So this is one of the things that was sort of like my paradigm that I had. I always thought that as well. And not that there are not appropriate times for calorie restriction or fasting, but I think that this was entered into the zeitgeist that sugar was the problem, that sugar is a poison, that carbs are a problem, carbs are a poison, starches are a problem. We should do, keto, or you should do paleo, or whatever that is. And that is a calorie in, calorie out thing. But I think that what I really like about what Ray Pete has put out there and that community talks about, I mean, there's crazies in that community too. So I'm not just saying like, just follow anybody, but I'm saying if you start checking it out, then really the root cause, according to that, is metabolic dysfunction, which is intimately tied to the health of your thyroid, which is sensitive to radiation for sure, and Bluetooth headphones and things like that. But there's a lot of other factors as well that can contribute to that. And he thinks that it's pretty simple to turn around a lot of these things. And that was one thing that I wanted to tie in about the calories in, calories out, that back in, and this is the thing, same thing with the sun. A lot of people in today's day and time avoid the sun. It's literally life-giving on this earth. It's actually very bizarre. And we have the huge increase of using sunscreen, and yet the instances of melanoma are rising. So it clearly is not that, although that's what we are taught. And that is what is discussed in anti-aging and from your dermatologist and things like that. So there's clearly the well-worn tropes that we have always been told. They are not true. They're not accurate. And people used to have a lot more calories. They used to eat a lot more calories. And yes, I know that they were likely a little bit more active, but that doesn't fully account for the differences in weights that we see today. And that is because our metabolic health has been poisoned in a million different ways.
Yeah, most people are iodine deficient for one thing. And then another thing along with the sunscreen is the sunglasses. And our eyes, we do need that light to have a proper circadian rhythm. And I know you're an expert on it because you've had to deal with it. But my daughter had thyroid issues too, so I made sure she got plenty of iodine. But also, most thyroid testing, most doctors don't know how to read or properly test for thyroid issues. So
exactly, Yeah, I wanted to piggyback on that. Yes, I never wear sunglasses because I don't think they're good for you. And I don't think that I think that there's an they do more harm than good, in my opinion. Is this going to be a hot take for some people? Maybe. I'm sorry. If you want to wear sunglasses, wear them. I don't wear them. And yes, your thyroid issues can be treated, and we can all get, I believe that there's very few cases where we don't have hope of getting ourselves to feeling better, as far as that's concerned. And I agree with you, Karen. The light is very important, and there's a lot that we can do to help our thyroid health.
I have one note on sunglasses. Got this from an eye doctor, actually. It was someone that was examining my eyes or whatever, and they didn't like sunglasses either. And their reasoning for it, well, not the wrong kind of sunglasses. So if you're out here and you're looking forward and it's dark, that's going to cause your pupils to open up wider, right? So you can, and what they were saying was that peripheral light gets in and it causes damage over a long period of time. It can cause damage. Now, if you have those like forever midnight wraparounds, or something like that, that's what they said if you're going to use sunglasses. Because I used to wear sunglasses all the time, and they're like, yeah, you shouldn't use them. Once in a while, maybe it's okay, but don't be outside all day with them. If you get the ones that are kind of small, like little circles, because you're making your pupils open more, and you're getting all that light so you're kind of like burning out the edges of your retina, and they were saying that it hurts your peripherals over time.
And natural sunlight exposure is good for you, and the eyes are an important way to absorb that. And I've seen some people in the chat that I know there are times when people want to wear them and that they're helpful, and you do you. I'm just saying, for me, it's just one of the things that I decided not to do anymore. So I never wear sunglasses.
All right. Well, I'm done with everything. I'm really kind of upset that Dr. Shiva didn't make it today. We will try to reschedule that. I had a lot of great questions for him, and I was going to take questions from the chat. I don't know, do you guys want to hang out a little bit longer and maybe throw the link in there, see if somebody wants to come on and chill, or are you guys going to wrap it up?
Billy just joined us.
Yep, I see.
Hey, Billy.
What's up, Billy?
Great show today.
Yes, very good show today. I'm glad it went into overtime. That was nice.
Yeah, drop the link if y'all are up for it. I am.
Sure. Let me.
If someone has Christmas memories or traditions or anything like that they'd like to talk about, if you wanted to do something a little bit more fun.
Top 5 favorite Christmas movies. That's always
yeah.
I like to hear what people like to watch every year.
Yeah,
Christmas movie wise, if anything.
I'll go first while we're waiting on someone to come in. But every year when I was growing up, it was always the Charlie Brown Christmas. What's the one? Rudolph, right?
Rudolph with the Island of Misfits toys and the abominable snow monster and the dentist.
Yep. And then was it Frosty the Snowman?
Yes.
And there was one more, I can't remember it now, but they were like, I don't care what you're doing, Mom was going to see
Charlie Brown Christmas.
Did I say Charlie Brown Christmas?
Maybe you did. And the Grinch is still Christmas. So the
original that was the other one, the Grinch
cartoon one.
Yep, that was the other one. So those 4, we did not get out of it whatsoever. I don't care what was going on. You're coming in here, sitting down and watching this. That was her tradition for us. And then also the decorating of the tree. We used to do the popcorn with the thread and the needle. And yeah, and a lot of times we went and cut our own tree too. We didn't do that all the time, but if we didn't have the money to get a tree, we would actually go out in the woods and find a little fir tree and cut it down. But I wish we would have did that every year, because that would have been a great tradition. But yeah, that's what I got.
My dad was a high school teacher in a small town, and the geometry teacher, he was Santa Claus on the side during the holiday season. So when my daughter was little, my dad would hire the geometry teacher to be Santa Claus. So we'd have a real nice, actually we would always have a Mexican dinner on Christmas at my parents'. The day after Christmas, we had tamales and chili verde and tortillas and everything. And so we'd have our nice Mexican dinner and go around the table and say we sang Christmas carols and things a little bit. And then we'd all go sit by the fire and get ready to open presents. and you'd hear this pounding on the door, ho, 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 ho. And my dad would open the door, and Santa Claus would burst in the door with this bag of gifts. And my daughter was absolutely terrified of Santa Claus. She'd run and jump into my lap. And my mom and dad would pick out a gift or buy a gift for each person. And so then we all would get our name called and go sit on the Santa's lap. And here I was in high school sitting, or, a little later in high school, sitting on the geometry teacher's lap. It was kind of weird in a little bit of way, but I'd sit on the arm of the chair. And so we'd all get a gift. And I had an aunt who lived to be 105, and she would come every year. And so Aunt Nora would get a Christmas present from Santa. And so we did that for probably 10 or 15 years. It was so much fun. But so people talk about Santa Claus being an anagram for Satan and things, but we all knew that was actually Mr. Schmid, the geometry teacher, but it was so much fun. So I treasure those memories. That's just my tradition.
If y'all want to jump in, I'm going to put that link up there again. If you want to jump in, just click on the link. You could leave your camera turned off. Just mute it. And where's my paste button? There we go. Ashley, what's your traditions?
Well, I don't know that I really have a ton of traditions. I mean, we had the rounds, the busy rounds of like going to a lot of different places year after year. And I did have a couple of really cool gifts when I was a kid that I got very excited about. So my first camera ever, I was very, very excited. And it was like one of the little long rectangle ones that you put the the film that they don't use
Instamatic?
No. Not like a
What is
Polaroid. I actually have one of those now, but it was like just the old, like just the regular had a little flash on it. But
I know what you mean.
The little 110 cameras.
Yeah.
I guess so. Either way, I was so excited about that. Another time I got a lot of like little things from Pee Wee Herman, which was it was one of my favorite shows as a kid. So those were exciting to me. I was always excited to see what, our grandparents would come up with. But then I would say now I enjoy the Christmas lights. I love seeing people's Christmas lights and just the beauty of that at night on a cold evening. And then I just want to say a couple of my favorite movies. I love Home Alone and Christmas Vacation. Those are a couple of my favorites, as well as Christmas with the Cranks. So those are movies I usually try to watch every year. Hey, Ricky.
Hi, Ricky. Ours was A Christmas Story.
How y'all doing today?
Doing good, brother. We had to wing one.
I seen it.
Yeah. I don't think we've ever had a guest that didn't show up. That's never happened to us, has it, Karen? Had them come in late.
No, it hasn't.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird thing, but the ladies are great at motivating, and we just winged it. So
there's nothing wrong with that. It happens, and stuff happens. So we just keep on. The show must go on, as they say.
Roger that.
Well, I think y'all had a good one though. I was lurking in the background for most of it, just listening. But y'all did good.
What do you got going on your next show?
God only knows. I got one where I interviewed. I need to get it finished. Who did I interview? Dennis Brennan. He's wrote a few books and stuff like that. From up in Chicago. Had a good conversation. Of course, the last part of it disappeared. But I made it work. I got put a little stuff together for it, but of course on the Wednesday night, who knows what's going on in the world? Probably more. We talked a little bit, more like, Erica Kirk, Candace Owens, everybody's against each other right now. It's pretty wild to see. So, yeah, but we talk about that stuff and a little bit of everything as always. Whatever pops up.
Right on. You got Christmas traditions that you've observed since you were a little kid?
We usually We used to like always open up like one present, when I was a kid, like for Christmas Eve, we open up one present, and then like Christmas Day, we open up the rest, and of course, then the Santa presents will be there the next day. I remember one time my parents were sneaky. They had to be, because I stayed up late, and I kept on popping in there, and I didn't see nothing, and I finally fell asleep. When I woke up, it was the extra Santa presents was in there, so it was pretty cool. And then we always watch some kind of movie, with now, especially now, like we watch with at least usually, since I sold my house stuff, we won't be at my house this year. We'll be back at my parents, but we'll usually do just random movies. We've watched Die Hard. It's of course a Christmas movie. We've watched and then we've done even to like Zombieland and stuff like that, just silly movies or comedies or something like that, just something keep the spirit up. But we always try to at least watch something together as a family and then we all go our little separate ways, but it's good times.
Right on. I'm going to try something here real quick. Let's see, add to stage. Look at that, Karen.
Oh,
Cool.
I
some
set
people don't
the-
like that. I know
this up
some
as a
people who
layout.
I know some people who won't chat if they know that that's going to be up there.
Oh, right on. That's
On
a
the
good
replay.
point.
I don't know if any of our viewers feel that way about it, but I know some people don't like that. Just saying.
No, that's good. I think we
It
might
is
have
a
talked
cool
about that before.
feature, though. I like it. I do like it, but some people don't.
Yeah, a
The
lot of
Herbie movie.
streams do it. It's just kind of like a 50-50. I've seen a lot of streams do that. They'll do that, put the chat up on the screen, and
So Doc spoiler, he's a movie guy. He says up here in the chat, Die Hard and Gremlins are his favorite Christmas movies. And then the Herbie movies. That's kind of cool.
Lethal Weapon was a Christmas movie.
Was it really?
It was done during Christmas time. They had to.
Oh, yeah, I think you're right.
They
Because
had
they had Christmas over there at the at Danny Glover's house, right?
yeah, after it's all said and done. Yeah.
Yeah, right on. I know people who watch Jaws. That's kind of their thing, is Jaws. But anyway, do one of y'all ladies want to do shout outs? We got the list here on the back end. Or should I?
Sure, I don't mind. Either way. Okay, let me see if I can find it here. All right. So we have today White Wolf and Casey. Great to see you, White Wolf. White Wolf is loyal to Don Jeffries and America Unplugged and to our show. And it's always nice to have White Wolf keeping us honest. Hiker Emoji, spirit of the age, says he brought his baby daughter home in a stocking for Christmas. And that's a sweet memory. That is indeed cool. a sweet memory. Denver Attaway, Big Ron, Narrow Way, Narrow Gate, Levi. Thanks for sticking with us, Levi. Sweets, I'm Marty. Steve's, I'm so glad you got to catch us live today. And so it's great to have you join us. D2T, Death to Tyrants. Ronnie Omelets, the coolest name on the internet. Geesebusters, thank you, Geesebusters, for always saying hello to us, even if you're out there working, doing your geese busting. It's always great to talk to you and to have you with us. Nostradamus, thanks for the advice and the input on my shoulder issue, Nostradamus. Brian and Deb McCartney. Deb, thanks for joining us, Deb. I hope you had a great day. And happy birthday to your hubby today. Greg Talent. Nice to see you, Greg. Doc Spoiler, who has a Bond movie tonight. Doc Spoiler, it was great to share the episode with you last week. That was really fun. I really enjoyed it. Anything is possible. Ricky is here with us today. Yay, Ricky. He's got the coolest masks. He's got some great stories about his masks, too. And his kitty is making an appearance, and Ashley's kitty too. I should go get mine. Sweets. Thanks for joining us, Sweets, and for always sharing the links and things. Dad Guy Patrick, 24, who keeps things running smoothly for everybody 24/7. He's a plumber, and so thanks for your service, Pat. You're a hardworking guy. Carl and Hanny. Carl, thanks for being with us today. It's great to see you. Bronx Stomper, Derek. Sounds like Derek's having fun today. Melanie, our good friend Melanie. Misfit 1904, the algorithm. Thanks for joining us.
That's Tom Cooper, by the way. Misfit 1904.
Oh, Misfit, right. Yeah, Tom.
Yeah, and he has his show tonight, Saturday
Tom
night.
has Saturday Night Anarchy on the New Prisoners Network is it start at 5 Pacific? I'm not sure when it starts.
Yeah,
5 Pacific.
Drop it in chat there if you want, Tom.
And it's a marathon. One night I was listening and I woke up the next morning and they were still chatting. And I thought, what on earth? So apparently they went all night long.
And then they do the Mob Rules if you're into metal. Him and Harps from Australia do a bunch of metal on Sundays. So that's your weekend entertainment from TNT.
Right. Okay. And then Handy, our paramedic. Wild West LV. That makes me think of Artemis Gordon and James West on the Wild Wild West old TV show. Robin Lee, great to see you today, Robin. I'm glad that you got to join us live, and I wish you a Merry Christmas. What is Truth podcast? That is Wheezy. Always great to have you with us, Wheezy, and I enjoy your show from time to time. I tune in. And the ECKMFAW, we'll call him that. Thanks for being here with us today. And of course, our friend Billy Ray Valentine. Shout out to Billy Ray Valentine, Billy the Kid.
And if you missed their show today, go check it out. It was well worth it. It was a great conversation. They went a little, about an hour and a half, I believe.
Yes, America Unplugged on the America Unplugged channel on Don Jeffries on Rumble. Don Jeffries' YouTube channel on Billy Ray Valentine's X, I believe, and probably on a few other outlets. So that's America Unplugged. And then Billy also has the Gorilla Underground on Sunday at 7 Eastern on the Gorilla Underground YouTube channel and on his BRVX channel. I think that's the correct information. So great to see everybody today and great to have you with us. I wish you a happy holidays and Merry Christmas.
Right on. Well, do you guys want to get up out of here? Or do you want to go some more?
Ricky, did you want to tell an anecdote or two?
Yeah.
Well, you know, I can talk all day, so it's whatever. I don't know. I had some, as my looking, there's some weird stuff. Just popped in my head. I put it on my shorts on my YouTube, and I just posted some of that. And one of the ones. Did you know they were planning on actually hitting the moon with a nuke?
Mm-hmm.
I heard something about that. Yeah.
It's like, but they, well, we didn't find. They were trying to show their might, and they're going to hit the. I swear, like it's the scientists and these crazy suckers are going to be the death of us, absolutely, because just the insanity of their thinking. I know they EMP'd Hawaii using a nuke up in the upper atmosphere, and what would that have done if they hit the moon, or like they knocked it off its, trajectory? It would change all our ways and everything. Just
not to mention just the debris thrown
up.
Yeah.
If it broke off,
and
if it broke off or something like that, yeah.
That's another thing. David Knight covered this. We're talking about space here. That they're trying to push these data centers now because of the cooling water requirements, which I did find out. I looked it up. Because I'm wondering, how does it consume water? Because your radiator in your car doesn't consume water. It's a closed loop system. They use an evaporation method. So the water is actually consumed. So it's not like they're going to have to go take your drinking water just to fill this thing up, and then that's it. It's continually going to be using it. So I did confirm that. But they're talking about putting these AI and data centers up in space. And I'm sure that they'll be communicating with each other on the ground wirelessly with the Starlink network or something. And I got to thinking about it. Do you know how much debris we have, space junk up there? Maybe it's a good thing. Maybe the debris will start taking them out.
I mean,
You know?
that I seen that, and they were talking about, because it pretty much fiber is just lasers. It really, it is. It's lasers going through that cable, and so out in space, you won't have to have you can just have lasers communicate with each other, which the connections will be better. They could put the cooling on the backside of it, so it would keep it cooler, because of the temperature drop in space and blah blah blah. But they're working on having, so many. They already got, there's so many satellites up in the space. It's insane already. But they're pretty much where they can track every square inch of the world at any time. And so it's not going to wait till the satellite comes around. It's going to be, they're all going to be sitting there looking at you at the same time and communicating with each other. And then if you put the data links up there, it's insane how fast they're trying to push some of this stuff. And, I brought it up some on our show, it's just pushing more and more towards this, Agenda 2030 is just it's barreling down at us right now, but it's just more means of control so they can actually, it'll be, with this 6G, like you're talking about, and how you want to be turned around and be able to see everything. It already can see kind of with the, Wi-Fi's, people, if there's actually somebody in the house or something like that, it's just going to get more and more better technology so they can keep up. And I was watching videos, last night. It was, talking about prepper things, and like, you had to be careful, like, of legal things you can buy, but it's going to put you on a list of, like, like if you buy huge fuel tanks, if you're buying, of course, if you're buying, night vision goggles, stuff like that, it's going to put you on a list showing, hey, you're trying to, put something together here. You're looking at home defense or something like that. So it's going to put you on a list of what, come and looking at it. Even water systems, like if you buy elaborate water filtration systems for your house, they're going to put you, it'll actually, the algorithm will actually register you on a list. So you're like, oh, wait a minute, what's going on over here? We need to keep an eye on this person. And especially if you add all together, if you put the, if you're buying, chest plates and stuff like that for, which I seen a cool video where somebody actually made armor plating sleeves for like $30, and it actually stopped all the way up. The only thing went actually stopped at 9mm, and actually the only thing that the first thing it went through was like a 45 Magnum, but it actually stopped like a 9mm, and it wasn't very thick. It was pretty cool, where you could actually make your own. And if you could have made it thicker if you want to, and it was probably stopped a whole lot more. But it was, but you're just using the resin and canvas, and you made your own panels with that. It was pretty wild to see, and what it stopped was wild to me, seeing it stop stuff. But if you're actually buying those kind of things, and it's gonna put you on a list of, you have to be careful. They want you to be able to have take care of yourself for a few days. So we do have a natural disaster, but when you're actually super prepping, they're gonna keep an eye on you and see what's going on. And
oh yeah, and like we were talking about no-fly lists earlier, or maybe you're flagged for buying a gun, or whatever. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I think this, talking about the satellites, and I put the map up there that showed the low Earth orbit satellites. There's tons and tons and tons of them, but like more than you need. I'll throw it back up again. I only have a couple of these highlighted right now. 1, 2, 3, 4. Look at how much area that covers.
Oh, wow. That's pretty.
But then you have all these other ones. Why do they need so many? Why so many overlapping
Nowhere to run to, baby. Nowhere to hide.
These are all
nowhere to-
Starlink.
Yeah, that's just redundancy and really, and that's just like I said, that's Starlink. That's not to mention the ones that Uncle Bill's trying to put up there, and that's right. We're on Rumble, so we're good. Bill Gates is going to put up there.
Yeah.
And he's talking about having every square inch. So they're pushing all. It's just more and more. I want eventually we'll be able to even see the stars anymore because there's going to be so much clutter in our skies.
Yep. But the way I see this working, looking in from the military aspect, if we wanted complete command and control of everybody everywhere, especially to get them into cities and get them out of rural areas, what you're going to do is you have to be scanning everything all the time in real time, or even if you just took a photograph every 20 minutes. And what they're going to do is this thing we called in the military change detection. And change detection means you detect that something has changed. You would do that if like an IED, like you did a route clearance mission all the time down the same road, and all of a sudden something looks different. It's possible they could have been placed an IED or something, right? So you notice that change. That's what they're going to do with this, in my opinion. They're going to have super high resolution imagery of everywhere. So if you see out in the woods here that all of a sudden this area has been cleared and something has changed, there's somebody there, and that they're not supposed to be there because that's a rewilded part of America. And then they're going to send, in my opinion, you'll probably have little drones that fly out there to get a closer look, maybe into the woods. And that's one of the things that that they're really working on, the Army's working on, is being able to have drone swarms that can navigate through limbs and stuff, tree limbs, and go through the woods, so that they'll be able to send something in there to get closer eyes on, verify it, and then the next step will be the robot dogs or the robot bipedal things to come out and just take you out. So that's how I see it working. Just knowing how we would do it, like that's how we do it in real life. We use satellite imagery to get our intel, and then we send a spy plane or something over there to get a closer look, and then we send boots on ground as the last, if there's action that has to be taken. So that's kind of like how I see it going.
Absolutely. I mean, in the push for the the smart cities and pushing people to the more and more in the more, I think that's part of the plan. You're using more and more the AI to take over jobs and stuff like that. So it's going to push to the point of where there's going to be more people needing assistance, or they're going to put more people on the government program stuff, and they're going like, all right, well, if you're going to be on this program, you got to live here, and they're going to push us, to put the people in the cities and put people in there, so they have to be there, and that way, and then when they want to lock it down, then we've seen so many like movies and stuff like that, and video games we played, and like The Last of Us and stuff like that, where they blocked everything off and you couldn't go out to certain parts, but that's the goal. I posted a video, I know, on my Facebook today, me sharing, and I shared it Wednesday, was like the World Economic Forum's, like their darkest stuff that they got, like the top like 10 or something like that. I forget what it was, but one of them was, lady was on there talking, was I'll be nice and say a lady, but was talking like, we don't need you shouldn't have to own anything. You shouldn't want to own anything. You shouldn't want to own why do you want to own a washing machine? Why do you want to own this? And that's their mindset. They want us to not own anything. They want us to not purchase or have anything. That way they can control it all, and I think that's part of the problem with the job, like the housings and stuff like that. They're running the prices up, so many people can't afford, so they're going to shove it to the point where these big BlackRock companies can come in and buy more and more of these housing, and to the point where you got to rent, or there ain't nothing else to get,
That's another thing too, talking about, and I disagree with Gerald Salente on this one point. He talks to David, or who goes on with David Knight about once a week or so. And I had brought up that, well, he talks about the real estate market in New York and how buildings are sitting empty. And I said, well, they could convert those over into communal housing, like a barracks, like an army barracks, where a floor, maybe one floor, you just have your little cubicle that you stay in with your TV and whatever. And then you had a communal shower, a communal kitchen per floor, or maybe per every other floor or something. I mean, that's how a barracks works. And he had disagreed with that. I've actually seen a story. I don't think we covered it, but I've seen two stories. One is a mall. Handy sent me that one, that they have converted into like a pod city. You live in your little pod. So it's like a communal living. I mean, you got your own apartment or whatever. But it's really tiny. And then, that's how you would have to do it for commercial real estate. Everybody couldn't have their own kitchen sink, their own toilet, their own whatever, because it would be too expensive to do all the plumbing and sewer and stuff. But I did see another story where they took a building. I forget which building. It's a historic building. It used to be I think it used to be the tallest one in the US for a while, but they're actually converting that into, so there's a skyscraper type building, absolutely built 100% for commercial. And they're going to take, I forget what the percentage of those floors that are sitting empty. Somebody had just bought it. I think I want to say it's a building in St. Louis. Yeah, I was watching somebody's podcast or like a driving around America type thing, and that was the building. But yeah, they're actually going to do it. So I forget where I was going with this, but as these places go out of business or we remote work, there's no need for these big skyscrapers and stuff anymore. And that's what I think they're going to do, is turn those into your 15-minute cities, and then take people out of the rural areas. And that's really easy to do as well. To get most of the people out of a rural area, all you need to do is cut off the supply chains to your Walmart or your dollar store, because everything has been consolidated down to a handful of big box. So unless you are already set up to be self-sufficient out in the woods, or even in your, your little 2 acres or whatever you have in a subdivision area, or 1 acre or whatever, what are you going to do? You're not going to be able to get fuel. What if they don't ship fuel out to the gas stations? They don't ship food out. They don't ship anything. Maybe they just turn the electricity off. And then you're going to have to go. So I think that's what you're talking about saying you're going to be on these programs, so you need to go here. Or maybe you're going to get paid more money to live here for your UBI to come, and your carbon, because your carbon, less of a carbon footprint. So you're going to have more. So basically the carrots, right? Here comes the carrots. And all of a sudden the holdouts are going to get the stick. That's how I see it going. And there's already maps of America where the no-go zones are. They've been out for years. And I think, hasn't Courtney Turner covered that, Karen? Those, the maps where they want to consolidate people in the places we won't be able to go.
Oh yeah. Well, I have too. I have those maps in my phone. There are maps that have most of the land zoned that's not for human use. And this is a map of the United States I've seen. Yes, most of the land is zoned not for human use. And then there are small green areas that are actually for normal everyday use. And those are where the mega cities would be. There's one near Austin, Texas, one near Boise, Colorado. There's one down in Florida. There's a one in the Great Lakes area, couple one in the Pacific Northwest, a couple in California. So there are these mega regions that are planned. And then the rest of us would only have very limited access, if any, to the what we consider like the Bureau of Land Management lands or the National Forest Service lands, or just the land that we all know and love and roam fairly freely on at this point. They definitely want us off the land.
Oh, for sure. I mean, and then I think you're going to be using, like you said, a lot of the, skyscrapers, and, you've seen them do it now with a lot of the old malls. They'll actually walk in malls. They're converting them to having housing and everything, because, nobody's going to malls anymore. It's trying to, and I would say to get thinking of AI stuff like that. They're planning a neural nexus development downtown Memphis for AI thing. It's kind of, I know some people are kind of happy about it, but but it's kind of weird on it, more infrastructure and stuff like that. So it's of course we got Elon has as one of his supercomputers right here. There's a lot of fuss about that and the pollution, and of course we have Memphis has the best drinking water in the nation, like the best tasting drinking water. Like it's because like the aquifers and stuff, it's so deep. They say that right now, like the water that we're pumping up and drinking in Memphis right now is like was probably from the time of Jesus. It's because it took so long for the rainwater to get down there to it, kind of thing. So it it filters it so well. And that's what they're using, to cool this supercomputer and the pollution and everything. And now they're adding more and more. But as those things set up more and more, it's the efficiencies and the absolute, they have no idea the long-term extensive damage they're going to do to the land, and they don't have no idea what they're going to what's going to happen in 20 years. Will we have class action lawsuits like we have now, for different things, or will it be by then will we have any control at all anyway? It makes you wonder. It makes things that make you go for sure.
I wonder what's going to happen when these all those satellites we just looked at earlier, talking about lawsuits and stuff, class action lawsuits. Satellite doesn't go forever, right? And these things are scooting along pretty good. They're in low Earth orbit, so they have to keep them correct, right? So they're going to have some kind of thrust or something to have to make corrections, or sometimes they'll move a satellite because they do track all that debris I talked about. So they'll have to maneuver the satellite to avoid a collision. What's going to happen when they start falling out the sky and landing on people's houses? Maybe that's why they want us in, certain areas and not anywhere else, because, I mean, if one fell on my house, geez, I'd be a billionaire tomorrow. I'd be suing Elon right now.
For sure. I mean, but the way they talk and having them cross there, like there wouldn't be any safe area, once they get to the point of what they want, like just completely surrounding the planet. Like right now you can see there's gaps a little bit, it's not, but now that, the future of what they want is like just sitting beside each other down there,
Do you know how much raw material and fuel and that it would take to do that? The Earth would be completely mined out of all of its value, and that's a lot of very expensive materials go into these satellites. A lot of gold is used for electronics, and the silver for the solar panels, and all kinds of crazy stuff.
Just getting them up there too, the fuel getting them up there. Just like
going to the ones that they want to do that's supposed to block out a portion of the Earth's sun, kind of dim it, and those are the ones that would have to be very close together, even if not touching, just close together to kind of like on your window in your car, you got the little dotted area it's tinted, but it's not tinted, it's dotted, but it still tints out to a certain percentage of the sun. It's something like that. But if you're doing that for the green agenda, imagine the energy input that has to go in to that much mining of materials, putting the stuff together, launching it in there, up and down rockets, and they don't even last forever. And then you went all in on solar. Now you're going to cut the amount of sunlight reaching those solar panels. It's all about contracting and grifting money. That's all it's about. And Gates,
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. The green agenda is bullshit. It is money laundering. You know, if you look at, like, I shared on my show Wednesday, you know, um, and we talked about it a little bit, a little rant, but you know, we turn around and, you know, Zuckerberg's yacht, 287 feet, uses over 500,000 gallons of fuel, you know, a year. If he was, you know, he worried about being green, I don't see that's the way to go. You know, and like they're doing down in Brazil, they're cutting down all that rainforest to make a road, a 4-lane highway, just for a climate convention for all them big wigs to go down there and talk. You know, that if that don't show everybody that it's all BS, I don't know what else is.
And I think they ended up canceling the conference or something like that.
You know, and then so all them trees, you know, all that, you know, greenhouse gases and all that stuff. It's just hypocrisy. It really is. They do not care. It's all about money, you know, and when you literally look into it, because you can get those. It's never been about the climate anyway. It's about another way of laundering money and moving money around. Because I know a guy's got a bunch of property, and I've said this. I know I've said on my show, and I asked him. I was like, you know, are you going to mine it? Are you going to do something with it? Are you going to do blah blah blah? He's like, I ain't gonna do nothing with it. I'm gonna plant some more trees on it. He's like, I get more money being a tax credit, you know, for green, and I can sell green credits to companies who need it because they're polluting more, and I can make more money doing that than I can do anything else. And you know, it's like, holy hell. So it's, you know, so somebody can keep on polluting is just as much as they've been polluting. All they got to do is buy some green credits from him or somebody like that. And as long as the credits, you know, they show, you know, the magical number, they're good, you know. And so it's not doing anything. It's not helping the environment because they're not whatsoever.
I should do that with my property that I got up north of town. Get in on a green grift.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I know. He planted it was a whole bunch of trees, and it was some land. And I know
mine already
has it. They you know, the guy that owned it, you know, had gravel mines and stuff like that, and that's what he made his money on. And I was like, you know, you're gonna mine it? And he was like, no. I was like, I can't mine it and make the money that I can do this. I was like, well, you go, buddy.
You got a place to home too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to cut mine down, and then I'll bury them. I'll get credits that way, and then I'll replant the trees and get more credits. Yeah, like
I think that the AI will be a bit like the green grift and the green new steel or whatever. I think that we're going to see some of that. The question is, how much destruction will it reap in the meantime before it eventually settles out? And I wanted to give a shout out to Do Not Obey and Dustin Helm, who joined us in the chat. And Nostradamus had an idea to have a pet show where we share our pets. So that would be fun show. Or feature on a show, maybe.
I don't have any pets, but there's a bird in my shop right now.
I know.
No idea. I actually went down.
Pets too. You could show a picture of, what was it, Wiggles? You could show some
Wiggles.
pictures of Wiggles.
Yeah.
I think most of us have pets that we've loved and lost, and I think probably most of us have pets that we love currently. I know I do, but sorry, I just wanted to throw that in about the AI possibly being comparable to the Green New Deal in some ways.
I got to throw something up real quick in case Billy Ray is still watching. Check this out for his Gorilla Underground. I got to email this to you, brother. It's up in the upper right, the little spinny.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. I got one for Tiger too. I just haven't sent it to him. It's actually in our little emoji things. So the reason I brought that up is because I want to remind the audience that if you have ideas for emojis, let me know. I can do animated ones. I got back into the Photoshop animated GIF stuff. So I want to get those skills sharpened up again.
That's cool.
So, yeah. Well, that's all I got. I got actually starting to get a headache. I think I'm dehydrated.
Mm.
Well, we're at 2.5 hours.
It's not bad.
No.
What do you got, Ashley? Anything interesting?
No, I'm just chatting. I'm just over in the chat, and people are talking about the carbon credits and the data centers and things like that. And I was just saying that North Carolina has definitely been preyed upon with data centers. For my hometown, they Google put in a data center, and they promised investment in the local economy and jobs for locals and investment in local schools. And none of that ever happened. And they do have a very secure perimeter, because somebody was talking about having armed guards. They do have that. Even if people were to be driving by because they were simply curious, then sometimes they would have guards come out and shoo people away. So they're very strict about that. And just that, big tech has North Carolina on its radar. They use, they mine for lithium and quartz in the mountains. They've used generational farmland that the families either sold or are leasing out for data centers and solar farms. And then we have the Research Triangle in the center of the state. So I think it's very important. And of course, Bill Gates owns a lot of farmland here. So I think it's very much in the crosshairs of the technocracy.
I did want to say something about this. I know we reported on this, but we got in a lot of new people. One of the power ideas to power these things, and it's a company called Deep Fission. You can look them up, Deep Fission reactors. They're going to be burying these mini reactors a mile in the ground. They just drill a hole down to the ground, and they put this reactor down there. And the reason they do that is because they don't want to spend the money to build a proper nuclear plant, because of all the shielding, the concrete and the steel, all the shielding that has to come along with it. I'm not sure how they're going to keep it cooled or whatever, or how they're going to refuel it. But yeah, they stick it down there a mile in the ground. And going back to what Ricky was saying, they got those deep aquifers. You don't have any shielding down there. What's going to happen to the water? Is it going to irradiate the water?
Yeah, it'll get into the water table.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's one concern I brought up before was, that can't be. I mean, for here, it might not be too bad. I don't know how deep our aquifers run. I know we have a lot of caves that aren't really that deep, and that those were from the water at one point. So yeah, but for where you're at, Ricky, it's going to be devastating, and you won't see those problems for how many years. And once the problem surfaces, you can't do anything about it. So
Absolutely. People start coming up, the kids start having medical issues and cancers, and that's, well, where did this come from? Yeah, it'll be a bad, sad situation for sure. That's like they're cranking up 3 Mile Island too. Also, that's what another one of their plans are. For the nuclear power, all these AI, supercomputers, and it's just, of course, I know y'all showed, I think about Trump. He's going full board with it, and he wants it. He's signing us away, I think. Really do. It's all about the money. All about the money.
And we have Mark Young joining us too. Great to see you, Mark.
what's going on, Mark? But all right, well, I'm about done. If you guys are done,
Sure.
all right. Let's go around for final thoughts. Again, I apologize that Dr. Shiva didn't make it on today. I'll get in touch with them and see if we can reschedule. Not next week though, because we have Scott Helmer coming on, which I'm really looking forward to that episode. But anyway,
nice.
Yeah. Karen, your final thoughts?
My final thoughts: keep your sword sharp, your armor tight, and shine your light in case we forget. And it's just great to see everybody today. I hope you enjoy the season that we're in, despite the difficulties in the news cycle and all the what ifing. That just remember to count your blessings and enjoy the moment. Enjoy your pets, the memories of your pets, and make some traditions and enjoy old ones. It's great to see everybody, and glad you joined us, Ricky.
No problem.
Yeah, your final thoughts, Ricky. And oh, by the way, anything is possible. Go if you don't know where to go, just go to thenightsofthestorm.com/friends and click on AIP. There's a couple links there for where you got. But your final thoughts, Rick?
Yeah, I appreciate you having me pop up. I'm glad you brought the link, and I was like, well, hell, I'll come up and say a few words. I'm always good. I don't want to do that. Yeah, just kind of watch everything because there's lots of distractions, and I think a lot of this partly they use a lot of this, Erica Kirk and all that stuff going on in the news. It's just getting bombarded in the news right now. I think some of that's a big distraction. Especially a big distraction on the right. Because you got all these, the commentators going back and forth, and they're arguing with each other, and all these, it's a big distraction. I think but at the end of the day, I still think she's acting her ass off, though. None of it seems real. It really don't. And maybe, I don't know, I got some questions to ask on it, but it just don't. 2 + 2 ain't adding to 4 right now with the whole situation. So, but yeah, it's just keep aware that they're trying to distract the hell out of us right now. They're trying to divide us. Whatever side you're on, if you call yourself right, you call yourself left. Both sides are being distracted and split right now, and hopefully maybe come on what my mindset is. I question everything and ask questions, and on both sides. I don't claim neither one of them. Two extreme sides is to me is wrong no matter what. If we go to extreme, it's no good. Got to have balance. But I appreciate you having me on here, and if anybody wants to check out my show, check it out. I got a bunch of shorts and stuff I post, and some fun ones, and some stuff that I find out, and then random stuff. So come check out the show, and come join the live chat. I know y'all like to come on there too and talk, and we have a lot of fun. So appreciate y'all as always, and it's always great to hear y'all. Been a great show today.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. You really helped out, and we'll finish off with Ashley. Ashley, what you got for final thoughts?
I'm just having fun in the chat. We're talking about North Carolina. I'm living it up. So yes, I want to say thanks to everybody in the chat. It was super active. It's always so much fun to see what everybody's saying, what they think, what they're up to, all the information that everyone's sharing. It's a lot of fun. Thank you, everyone here, especially my Knights co-hosts. I really appreciate you both, and you do so much for the show, and you teach me so much, and you have so much wisdom and guidance to offer. So I'm very grateful for that. Ricky, you're awesome. Thank you so much for tuning in. I was going to tell you this week, I had a weird night on the night of your show. So I was kind of like falling asleep on the couch, but I had your show on. And then when I woke up in the middle of the night, it was like, it's almost 1 o'clock. Ricky's show was still on. And I was so happy
Ricky did one too, huh?
Yeah, so I listened to the end of the show, while I was getting ready for bed, and I was kind of listening to it while I was dozing in and out, and it was very, there was times when I was cracking up. Your co-host that was on there, the way that he phrases things, is very funny, and you were cracking me up too, especially some of the stuff that you're talking about as far as people's engagement with Israel. If you want to know more, you'll have to tune into Ricky's show. I definitely can't say it here. It's a family show, but I had a great time. And then I also want to thank the other people who listened to the show after the live. I know people can't always be here for the live, and we very much appreciate that and appreciate your comments and all that good stuff. And I'm going to hop on Wheezy's show here shortly. So if anybody wants to follow over there, I would love to see you in the chat there too. So thank you, everybody.
I will pop over there. Hey, Ricky, real quick before I cut us, there was a question. What time are you? Oh, and Metal Mama Sue, what's going on? Good to see you here. What times do you go on? Times and days, just real quick.
Wednesdays at 8:30 Central Time for sure. And then and I try to get a lunch show here and there. I just those timing and scheduling. I like to do more of them. Enjoy doing those daytime shows and stuff like that. But life happens. But for sure, Wednesdays at 8:30, and then I got a bunch of stuff that just pre-recorded stuff pops up and everything. But yeah, I was thinking about that. I was trying to do a short, and I put it into editing, and it's funny sounding when it comes out whenever it pops on the shorts, because it was like da 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 bleep, da 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 bleep. I was dropping bombs through the whole thing. It was so I cut the words out, and I was like, I don't need to put all this in here. So, but I left the bleep in there, so you hear it. We were both fired up. We were both. It was funny because Dave was. He said, well, this is my rant for the day. I said, this ain't your final rant, Dave. And later on, he just let it off. He's so funny, and he got that Trump impersonation down pretty damn good too. So he has fun with that. And like I said, we're just having fun and just speaking from the heart. And like no schedule. We don't have no scripts. I kind of collect some videos and subjects, and then we let it rip. So, but yeah. Appreciate it. Yeah, come on, check it out. Like I said, we have a lot of fun, and I know y'all try to come on after Angry Tiger's show, and I always try to catch Angry Tiger before it's time for me to get on. So I try to get to the last minute, and then once people start popping up in my studio, I'm like, oh, I guess it's time for me to go.
Ricky Ricky has a special way about him where he can cuss a blue streak, and it doesn't even sound like he's using a dirty word. He's got a real southern comforting voice. I enjoy your show, Ricky, a lot. And speaking of Angry Tiger show, we had a debate about AI last Wednesday on an Angry Tiger show, so check it out if you haven't. Ashley, what's your topic today on Wheezy's podcast?
I actually am not sure. I think he was going to talk about. Okay, so I think we're talking about the Civil War, which I'm not an expert in, and he's going to be chiming in, but I'll just chime in where I can, and otherwise I'll be in the chat.
Yeah, I don't know much about that either, although I did, and this is something Ricky might be have or at least familiar with. I went to Antietam last year, and the energy there, it was the biggest battle, the biggest loss of life. It was at Antietam in one day, and you could just feel it there. It was amazing, those battlefields. Anyway, sorry to get off track again when we're wrapping up. Go ahead, Jason.
All right. Well, that's a lot. I don't have anything else, so I'll just go ahead and get us out of here. Thanks everyone for showing up. We will see you maybe over in Wheezy's chat. We'll definitely see you next week. Hopefully we see you over in Ricky's chat, and again, Angry Tiger on Wednesdays. Make sure to catch him. All right. Take care all, and God bless.